evening, everyone, and welcome to the March 8th, 2021 Planning Board meeting. As we always do, if we could please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible,
with
liberty
and justice for all. Thank you. If I could please remind everyone to keep your camera off and your mic muted until your item is on the agenda. We have a few in the regular session, and then we'll move into the work session. So first we have correspondence, which we have quite a few. Anybody want to comment on any of them? I think it's appropriate to put them in the item agenda that they're directed towards. Anybody have any issues?
No.
Okay, then I'll move right into the meeting minutes for February 22nd, 2021. Anybody have any comments? I know John has already passed his off.
Good to me.
Anything?
Good.
Aaron? Bill?
That's it.
Fine.
Okay. So then do we have a motion to approve the February 22nd, 2021 meeting minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
First by Kinkart, second by Bach. All is in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're going to move right into the regular portion of the meeting. First on the agenda is the Gennelli minor subdivision. This is a request for a first 90-day time extension. Location is 2777 Quinlan Street. We're looking for, I believe, Joe Arena.
I got to get my counsel. Good evening, everyone. Josephine, the Principal Site Design Consultant, representing Angelo Gallinelli. As I stated at the last meeting where we had a reapproval on this, the applicant is not in a position to move forward to build out the subdivision, so he's asking for some additional time to work on what he needs to work on so he can get everything in order, and that's where we are today.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the members of the board?
None.
John Taggart, any issues?
No issues.
All right, so if there's no issues, no questions from the board, do I have a motion to approve the first 90-day time extension for the Gennelli minor subdivision?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
First by Lascano, second by Garrigan. All is in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe. Okay. Next on the agenda, we have the Hansman major subdivision. This is an adjourned public informational hearing. Location is 280 East Main Street in Jefferson Valley. Is Ralph Mastromonaco? I see Ralph.
Yes, hi.
How are you, Ralph?
Good, thank you.
You're on.
Okay, thanks. This was a more formal submittal of the changed subdivision plan. We had 5 lots, we're down to 3. And if you look at the plan, the only thing that we're really constructing is a loop cul-de-sac at the end of Osceola Road.
Ralph, if I could ask you not to cut you off, can you share your screen?
Yeah, I'll try. This takes a few seconds sometimes.
No problem.
Got it?
Yeah, I got it.
There you go.
If you can see my cursor, all we're doing in terms of construction is loop cul-de-sac that would serve as frontage for 3 proposed lots. There's that's the extent of the public improvement. The 3 lots that we're showing are zoning compliant. All of the septic systems have been confirmed. In this arrangement, once the cul-de-sac is constructed, the lots would stand on their own. So if the map is filed, each lot would be sold or developed separately, and the access would be off the cul-de-sac. We did do a complete tree plan. It's included in your package. It's a little complicated to see at this point. We are showing 3, I would call them stormwater basins, and those would serve the purpose of treating any impervious areas coming from the proposed driveways. The individual houses would have their own drywall systems or subsurface systems, and we would be improving a portion of Osceola Road. The portion that we're going to improve would begin at further back from the existing pavement, and it would travel down. The steepest part would be about 7.5%. There is a profile drawing in our set, and there should be, in order to make that grade, we have to put about a 4-foot wall on the uphill side and on the downhill side. I'll zoom in if I can. There we go. These stone hatch represents an erosion control feature that would be temporary, and there need to be a wall and a wall. The construction of that would start back here somewhere, and that would be a new road from here over. The site is fully graded. You can tell from the sort of like on that lot, you can see it's fully graded. And this would generally represent the end product of constructing homes on that lot. We've done an erosion control plan, and we've provided details. And other than that, I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. I will say that we learned Friday that in our notice that we sent out to the homeowners, adjoining homeowners, that 2 or 3 of the zip codes we thought were Jefferson Valley, turned out to be Mahopac or some other town. We just simply downloaded the information from the Westchester County GIS in those cases and didn't realize they were not giving us the correct zip codes. So if there's, complaints about an improper notice, then certainly there's no problem in us agreeing to postpone to the next meeting where we will get the zip codes right.
Jim, there were three properties that 2 of them were sent to Jefferson Valley. They should have been Mahopac, and 1 was an address, and it should have been a PO box.
Yeah.
I believe the 2 neighbors are actually in the meeting right now.
We are. So one was me, Patricia Burke, and we're Mahopac. And you guys at the last meeting specifically said, do we have the Burke's address? And I gave it to you guys, and yet it still went to Jefferson Valley. But yeah, we're Mahopac 10541. And only for the vigilance of Christine Gorgala do I know that the meeting was tonight and everything that was going on.
I also have a question about your list of people that you mailed to. In your project, you're starting on Osceola Road, west of the border of your site. Am I right? You're doing work in the roadbed, you're doing work, erosion and control and drainage and so forth. Is that true?
Yes.
But the property owners immediately adjacent to that work is not listed in your list of people to whom you were to have given notice.
Well, generally, it goes from the property line, but at the next meeting, we will expand that.
I also know that the town code permits the planning board to define the scope of notices that go out. Is that true?
That would be for Robin.
I don't
Yes,
recall, it.
You have added people to the notice at certain times.
Yes, it's,
But it's not provided for in the code, I don't think.
but it is. Hold on, I'll give you the section. I have to hyperlink over to it.
Oh, sorry, who's speaking?
Aaron,
Aaron Bach.
In section 195-4 of the Yorktown Town Code defines interested parties, okay? And it has the normal definition, which says an interested party is immediately adjacent to the site, and then it defines what happens if there's an intervening street. And the close of that section says, or as otherwise anyone else who is designated as an interested party by the planning board. And I think that's what Robin was referring to, where it states that we've added, the board has added people in the past. And I would suggest that everyone who's affected by this in a little broader area should be notified of these meetings and not have to find out about them by informal means.
Right, but then you have to designate them. So if you want to designate them, you should do that.
I'm thinking that, I'm not sure we need to do it right now, but I would suggest that, at some point we may want to expand the designation of people in this to make sure that the ones that are missing now are in, for example. But I just want to bring that point out.
We just heard somebody just messaged in Ms. Feller saying she was the other party that was not noticed, I think, with
Yes.
the Mayapack post office address.
There's one other too.
Yeah.
So
Right.
The Bergs and the Fellers, I guess.
Third.
right, and that's why you need to obtain the addresses from the town assessor so that you have the most up-to-date addresses, because we only send updates to the county, I think, once a year.
Yes, we've learned that.
All right, so I think Aaron Bach brings up a very good point. Clearly, from the amount of letters and emails we're getting on this application, it's a very sensitive application. I don't think since Costco have I seen such an outpouring of emails on a project. I'll be honest with you, and I think we want to make sure that we've crossed our T's and dotted our I's to the letter of the code and the law, so we don't get ourselves in trouble here. That being said, I also agree with Aaron Bach that I think if there's work that's not right next to the property, but there's going to be property neighbors affected, especially on a small road like this, I think it is proper and to notify them. So I think we should expand that as per Aaron's suggestion. That being said, the notice wasn't sufficient. And I think to make sure that we are completely above board with this, that we should, again, adjourn the public informational hearing until the next meeting, unless there's any objections.
I think we have to, obviously, but
Yes.
if we could give the applicant some direction and their professionals some direction as to whom we want to have included, like other homeowners on Osceola, if that's the case, perhaps the ones up on the court in the Mayapack. I think there's 5 Yorktown property owners north of this. I'm not sure, Ralph, maybe you can correct me, or if you can pan up there, you might see them on your plan, but maybe, on that Pike Place extension, I think there's
5 of us, yes.
Yeah, so at least the 2 that are contiguous to this property, and then we have a couple of Pike Place, Trout Place people that should probably be included because they are contiguous to the northern portions as well. 3 of them, I think 3 or 4 of them up there, and the assessor, once again, although they won't have those, you have them on your plan, and thank you for showing them. I think we asked for that last time. But they're in Putnam County, and they're in the town of Carmel, so you'll have to go beyond.
All these were noticed.
Oh, they were.
All these
Okay.
were noticed.
Excellent, good.
I would urge us to require notification to all the properties that abut on Orchard.
Osceola?
Yeah, Osceola, I'm sorry.
Abut what? Abut Osceola?
Yeah, there's 2, 4.
Yeah, up to the, because we did have comment, written comment last time. Rich was very good at reading some of the language that we had. And they, I think one of them was the property owner on the corner, and they were discussing the traffic, et cetera, and so forth. So that might not be a bad idea, right? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 or so homeowners. The two that are closest to this property, actually 3, that abut the end of Osceola that will be extended. But I know we heard from a couple of the other residents, and as long as everyone is noticed, we have in the record some comment, but it might benefit the board to have the input from the rest.
Well, we don't have any problem doing that. There's a house here that's actually fronting on Osceola, but it takes.
There's 4 of them actually. They're front on Mountain, right?
Right.
They have driveways from Mountain. So
but what we can do is anyone that has frontage on Osceola Road, we will add those to our list, and anyone on this portion of Pike Place, we can add those to our list.
And Ralph, just to clarify, this should be treated as a new public informational hearing, not an adjourned public informational hearing. In other words, I would treat the prior notice as a nullity because there were problems with it.
Okay.
So are we clear on what you are designating as additional folks that are interested parties? Osceola Road and the 5 in Mayapack? Is that the additional?
That's correct.
Well, they're in Yorktown, even though they have a Mayapack PO.
Right.
I meant the Mayapack PO. I know they're in Yorktown.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, I understand that. Yes.
Should we do that by way of a formal resolution so it's part of the record?
I would do it as a vote, but that's up to Jim. If Jim concurs.
Either way is fine.
So how do you want to handle it?
And I'll make a motion that we define the notice of interested parties to include not only those defined by statute, but also the additional homeowners that whose properties front on Osceola Road and the properties that front on Pike Place in the town of Yorktown.
Is there a second?
Second.
First by Bach, second by LaScala. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, Ralph, you know what you got to do?
Okay. Thank you very much. Good night.
All right. Have a good night.
Thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda is Nantucket Sound LLC. This is a public hearing. Locations 385 Kear Street. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
It was first by LaScala, second by Bach. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Joe, you're on.
Good evening, everyone. Joe Safrina, the Principal of Site Design Consultants.
Hey, Joe.
Representing Nantucket Sound Sons LLC on a proposed site plan on Kear Street. On the Zoom meeting with me tonight is Patrick Murphy, one of the owners of the property. Can I share the screen, Robin?
Yes.
Okay. So as I said, the site is located on Kear Street at 385 Kear Street. It's on the corner of Kear and Sawmill River Road. To the south is the Caramount facility. This is 345 Kear Street here. This is the entry into the Yorktown Green Shopping Center. The property is 0.36 acres and it's zoned C2R. The applicants are proposing to construct a mixed-use building. The building will have 3 levels, a lower level which will be retail, about 2,800 square feet of retail, and then 2 upper floors that will be residential units, 6 residential apartment units at approximately 2,600 square feet. The site access is gained from the main entry point at Keir Street, which serves 345 Keir Street, as well as the Caramount facility. So that's this entrance right here. And there are 2 separate parking areas and 2 separate entry points for the building. As you come in off of Keir Street, the first parking area to the right is set up for the lower level retail.
I'm still seeing the Google Earth version.
Oh, sorry, everybody.
That's all right.
How do I get out of this, Robin?
You have to go to a new share.
Go to a new share. So go new share. Okay. Sorry about that, everyone.
That's all right.
Okay. Is that okay? Sam?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me just go back up again. Main access point off of Keir Street, right here. It's the entrance to 345 Keir. Well, this main driveway, and then this going to the left here will take you into the Caramount facility. So, as I said, the site has 2 parking areas, a lower parking area to serve the retail, and an upper parking area to serve the residential portion of the property. So, when you first come in, the first parking area to the right, you've got 5 parking spaces there. Again, this is the retail, and you'll get a better view of this once I show you the building elevations. You'll understand a little better what this looks like. The upper 2 floors overhang the retail, so this dash line here represents the front face of the retail, which is set back below the overhang of the upper 2 levels of apartments. You've got a loading zone here. Trash containment will be located here. The truck will pull in, back in, pick up the dumpster, back out, and then head out again. Off to the side here, there's a little plaza with tables, which is at the same level, so that'll be access from the lower retail level. So should there be some type of food service or convenience service, patrons can come out and sit out at some tables that might be located over in this little plaza area. As you go back out and up the main driveway, now you're at the top level or the Caramount level of the parking area. You right turn in, and you've got 18 parking spaces up here, which will serve the 2 residential levels. The main entry to the residential levels is right here in the center portion of the building. And as I said, it'll be 6 residential units. Off to the side, you have a small common area here. It's set up with tables as shown here, or it could be benches. It could, could have various uses. There's also a bike rack that would be in that location. Additionally, the residents would have access to town recreational facilities which are nearby. You've got Railroad Park, which is a short walk, as well as the trail. In total, the square footage of the building will be approximately 8,200 square feet, just shy of 8,200 square feet. There's an existing crosswalk here which will be maintained. Because of the grade change here, we cannot provide full ADA access up to this level from the crosswalk area. So you'd have steps coming up here. We're extending a sidewalk from here to the corner of 118, where there's a crosswalk there. Again, grade change, it does not allow for a ADA compliant ramp to get down and over to that area. So ADA access would be gained from this parking spot here and access right into the front of the building. So altogether, there's 23 parking spaces. 23 are required, so we meet the standard there. The building meets all the other dimensional requirements for the zone, setbacks and height. There was a question at one point of where the front yard is and where the side yard is. We conferred with the building inspector, and he said on a corner lot you pick one main front yard and one side front yard. So Kear Street would be our main front yard, and the 118 side would be our front side yard.
Okay.
Still see me now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We've prepared a SWIP for the project. We've got two separate stormwater management areas, one in the upper parking lot, which are subsurface infiltrators. They'll be under the parking area, as well as a second one for the lower parking area, which is below that parking area. There's also a downstream defender, which is a water quality unit, which is located past each system, and that provides polishing of the stormwater before it goes into the municipal storm system. Landscape plan was prepared. Oh yeah, the lighting plan. Let me just go back real quick. There. We prepared a lighting plan, which shows that there'll be no ill effect from spillage of lighting off the site. BACA has approved the lighting fixtures and the lighting plan. Landscape plan was prepared, which you've seen before. The only change that I'd like to mention to you that was significant in a sense was BACA felt that the plantings along this edge here were too dense, too closely spaced and too dense. They thought the view of seeing the seating here in this plaza area was important as you're going up and down Kear Street, and it would provide an attraction for the retail use. So that spacing has been increased, and it is now less dense and less lower in height, so that you do get some green visual buffer, but not enough to totally screen this area. Everything else is essentially the same as what you had seen previously. Along this edge of the parking lot, there's some additional plantings being put in for densification of that screening in that area there. As you can see, this edge is all beautifully landscaped, as well as this edge here. At the corner here, there's a site easement here, as was pointed out to us by John Flynn, which no one had picked up on. The surveyor has not picked up on it, but there is a site easement here. And now this is all lawn area. Previously, our parking lot extended into this area, and we had plantings in this area. Now it's going to be strictly lawn area and maintain that visibility there. I think that's it on the landscape plan. So as I said, I was going to provide you with the architectural view. This is looking now from the main access drive, my back to 345 Kear Street. This is the lower level, the retail level. As I said, you can see it's set back from the two upper floors. So it's pretty obvious how that's going to look there. And then we have a view looking from my back at the corner of Kear and 118, looking at the two residential floors and the main entry point there. One last thing I would like to address is the tree count and the tree disturbance. I responded to the tree committee's memo, and you've received that at some, I think in August, I think I responded to that. But essentially, what they said was that based on a 2.5-inch caliper tree, we would be taking down the equivalent we would need about 178 trees to make up the 447 inches of DBH that we were removing. Based on what our calculations, our average DBH is 3.75 inches, not 2.5 inches. And at 93 trees, that puts us at about 119 trees would be required. The DBH equivalent of the existing trees that we're removing. Of that, as I said, we're planting 93 as well as 94 understory plantings, which currently there's no understory on the site other than a dumpster and some other trash that people have thrown in there. But we feel we're right there, if not providing more plantings and a denser planting scenario. So we leave that up to the board to consider, and we'll go from there. I think that's it for my presentation. Wait for any questions you may have.
Thanks, Joe. All right, first we'll reach out to the board. Any members of the board have any questions about what they've seen?
Joe, this.
But before you go any further, are you able to see the elevations of the building?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So this project is in what zone, Joe?
It's in C2R.
Okay.
And the
And it
use
conforms to the current zoning
correct.
in all aspects. It has nothing to do with this overlay district for the Yorktown Heights area, correct?
Correct. This is strictly based on the underlying zone of the site.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Joe, is there any, I noticed the sidewalk that wraps into the seating up here that you have on the screen right now. Is there any contemplation of being able to take that sidewalk down to the seating area that is adjacent to the retail area?
Rob, it's too much of a drop in elevation there. It's a full story drop down to that elevation.
Okay, good. Got it.
Anybody else from the board? John, anything on your end? John Tegeter?
Nothing on our end.
Jim?
Nothing on our end.
All right, so members of the public who are watching and are interested in this project, as Robin's screen says, if you just want to raise your hand on your screen to ask any questions.
I have John Flynn.
Go ahead, Mr. Flynn. How are you? You're on mute, John.
Okay, good evening.
How are you?
Good, yourself?
Good to see you.
Okay, same here. I guess I was going to say good evening, members of the Planning Board and the Planning Department, but I guess Rich covered that for me. Thank you for the opportunity to comment and ask questions about the Nantucket Sound's plans for developing the Keir Street site. Basing my comments and questions on a site plan dated June 17th, 2020, that looks pretty close to the one Joe just showed you this evening. The plan, I think, contains a number of negative features, which are a result of the many challenges of developing a very small piece of land. In most parts of Yorktown, the zoning ordinance wouldn't prevent even building a single-family house on this site. And my comments are not in any way meant to be critical of site design consultants. I think when your client asks you to paint a mustache on the Mona Lisa, you're not going to end up with not such a good picture. So that said, let me just start with parking. I think a good site plan always provides sufficient off-street parking, and this new site plan, because of the small size of the site, borrows a parking space from the adjacent Caremont facility. And before the coronavirus changed the way that people shopped for healthcare, the Caremont lot was almost always full, and that's with the building at Caremont still not fully occupied. So one of my questions there is, how will you keep Caremont customers when that parking lot fills up after we all get our vaccinations and everything and people return to their old habits? How will you keep people trying to park at the Caremont facility from occupying that space that you've set aside for this project? Also, on that residential parking lot, it looks like if the gates are left open on that dumpster, they'll block the cars trying to park in those two end spaces on the residential lot. That looked pretty clear on the site plan from June 17th. Looking at the screen that Joe just presented, maybe he's corrected that, but I still ask that question because it's such a tradition in Yorktown to leave the gates open on your dumpster containers. So I think that's a real concern. On speaking of waste management, the new plan shows a commercial dumpster which is located about, as I scale, 5 feet from the corner of the building. And over the years, I've removed my share of trash from commercial buildings, certainly. And this experience leads me to ask a couple of questions. What kind of renters does the developer envision wanting to live in an apartment where the commercial dumpster is directly below their window? And two, are the dumpster enclosures large enough to accommodate both the trash and the recycling containers necessary for the residential and the commercial occupants? And I've asked Robin to put up a picture here. And this is sort of if I ever claim that I never made any mistakes when I was on the zoning board, you should point out to this picture. I helped approve this site. But here you'll see again, a similar high density residential project that was approved a few years ago. And we didn't look closely enough at how the size of the dumpster enclosure, and this arrangement, which is taking up, it looks like 2 parking spots, in addition to the dumpster enclosure, to cover the waste management needs at another residential development on Keir Street. And so I think we need to look closely at the size of the dumpster stations that you're considering for this site. This has been this way since about, I guess I took this picture in September, and as far as I know, that dumpster is still there outside the enclosure. Okay, so those are 2 questions. Now, in terms of open space, I think that good planning provides urban dwellers with a reasonable amount of open space on site. And this is really a part of planning history. For example, New York City's 1901 Tenement House Act considered a landmark in the history of city planning and building codes, required tenements to have courtyards. And the plan's provision for on-site open space for apartment residents here is much less than the town requires for other multifamily zoning districts. And there, if you just need to look at the town code, section 300-128 and 368, you'll see the code requiring a lot more space, open space on site for multifamily dwellings. And so I guess the question there is, how do you avoid creating substandard housing in the C2R zone district, which does not require any outdoor recreation space for residents? So Joe he's within the code requirements in terms of not providing open space, but that would beat these other multifamily zoning districts. But that's only because the C2R zone district doesn't have any requirements on this. I think it's a big problem with that district and would ask you to address that. Okay, now thinking ahead, that's what planning means. And so there's some other design considerations here involved with looking ahead. And I think that includes green building practices and protecting people from the coronavirus. So let's start off with coronavirus. It's been called not simply a health crisis, but also a design problem. Earlier presentations of this project and the one tonight showed the apartment access via a common doorway, just a single door into this multi-apartment complex. And so you're going to have a common doorway, you're going to have common stairs, you're going to have common hallways. And we've already seen this virus change the way that people assess their risks in terms of housing. I could probably turn it over to John Kincart now, and he could tell us all about the people from New York City coming up and searching for houses up here in the suburbs to seek out less density living and because of the coronavirus. Residents of multifamily housing, as proposed here, are just as likely to prefer more distance from their neighbors. So my question here regarding this design is, will tenants want to share building entrances and hallways with neighbors and their guests now during the coronavirus and for years afterwards? This could really change the way people think about common hallways. And then as you address this question, I'd ask you to please consider a statement made recently by a prominent home builder. And I'll read it to you. The forced interaction of sharing doors and elevators has caused some anxiety. Townhomes where you come in and out of your door and you know you're the only one touching your door handle provide some degree of comfort. And his company, called EYA, is switching from higher density development starting last year to constructing townhomes. So you might want to consider reconfiguring this as, instead of apartments, as maybe two townhomes with separate entrances on those two upper floors. But anyway, that's my question. The parking plan for this building is also, very conventional, very pre-coronavirus. And with the pandemic's effects on commercial site design I think are very difficult to predict. We don't know really how that's going to shape things out. Nevertheless, I'd ask the following questions. Will retail shoppers continue to enter buildings to select goods and services as they have in the past? Or will they prefer to place orders in advance and pick them up outside the store? We've all gone into well, maybe not all of us, but I've been in supermarkets recently where I see this whole section of the supermarket given away to bagging for orders that people are either going to pick up or have delivered to their house. And so obviously retail shopping habits have changed. And I think we need to factor that in as we look at site designs now. And again, I'm not saying this is easy to do. I'm just saying it's necessary. Maybe retail stores will begin to look more like drive-through banking and fast food pickup. Hopefully not like Popeyes, more like other fast food pickup. But that might be how we prefer to shop in the future. So I think it's a good idea for planning. Is it a good idea for planning boards to require parking lot design that's flexible enough to accommodate both types of shopping? And as you answer that, if you don't think that's a good idea, then please explain why not. Green building design. This building is, I think this development offers many opportunities to do better in green building design, especially now that so many businesses have come before the board to initiate solar projects. It's not such a wild-eyed idea as it was when I first raised solar design at Costco. You now have business people coming in and say, hey, I'd really like to just spend my money on solar in Yorktown. The southern side of the site receives unobstructed sunlight courtesy of the Claremont parking lot. And there's nothing blocking the sun from hitting that building. So why isn't this building designed to generate solar power? The current site plan envisions an extensive underground system to catch and retain stormwater. But considering the expense of constructing and maintaining this system, why does it, not to mention the high cost of municipal water, I think that's the second highest price on my condominium's bill after landscaping services. Why not collect water runoff from the building's roof and use it for toilets and other gray water applications? The technology exists to do this, and it may save money and water in the meantime. Okay, and finally, get into the planning process. Here, this is more general than the site, but certainly one question I have is segmentation. And site design consultants could have easily solved the problems that I've raised so far in terms of parking, open space, and waste management if you had given them another quarter acre of land to work with. So had the town considered Nantucket and Claremont as related projects being done at the same time, a simple lot line adjustment could have given Joe more workable layouts for both projects. So this is the logic behind New York laws prohibiting segmentation during SEQA review. I'll just quote here, the law's provisions require that reasonably related long-term, short-term, and cumulative effects, including other simultaneous or subsequent actions included in any long-range plan that are likely to be undertaken as a result thereof, be considered. And New York defines segmentation as, quote, the division of the environmental review of an action such that various activities or stages are addressed under this part as though they were independent, unrelated activities. So I'm not an attorney. I can't really judge what that all means, but I do have a few questions related to segmentation. I'd say, does the town's separation of the two projects on adjacent sites violate the letter of the segmentation law? And here you can bring your attorney in to opine on that. Has the decision to plan the two properties separately now force the town to either reject this building as proposed or accept its negative features and all of the problems they create, such as putting a dumpster under the windows of residential buildings? If not, please explain. And then finally, plan changes without public input, which I think is something that's really important. Last year, the planning board approved significant changes to the original approved site plan for Lowe's Depot without first holding a public hearing. And these changes included expansion of a building's footprint from 7,500 square feet under the approved site plan to 12,500 square feet, almost doubling the size of the building. So I would ask, if the board approves this site plan, will allow the developer later in the process, when there's less public awareness of what's going on, to increase significantly the size of the proposed mixed-use building as you did at Lowe's Depot. If so, please explain why you do that. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
John, thank you very much for your questions. Very well spoken and laid out. We appreciate that. Rob, we have anybody else?
Yes, Susan Siegel.
Hi, Susan. You're on mute. Susan, you're on mute.
All right. Too many buttons to push here. Okay. And one, I want to thank you that the meeting packets are now online. So I was able to look through everything. Thank you for that change. And I understand from the supervisor that tonight's work session will be televised. So since I'm watching on Zoom, I don't have to look at that, but I hope that that will continue. And thank you very much for agreeing to make those two changes for greater transparency. Some of my comments about the Nantucket plan are related to comments that were made last year when you first discussed this proposal, and they weren't necessarily mentioned tonight during Joe's presentation, but I will refer to them, and I'm sure you're all young, so your memories are great, and you will remember what those comments were. Okay. Questions about the connection with Caremount. John Flynn already mentioned the problem of having one parking space there, and I urge you to consider the viability of that. Just as an example, I happened to be at Caremount on Friday about 8:45 in the morning, and I came in from Kear Street. The parking lot was absolutely full at 8:45, and I ended up actually parking, don't tell him, but in front of Michael Grace's building, because I got mixed up between the Caldwell Banker and Michael Grace, right? But I couldn't believe that it was full. So even that parking space that would be devoted to these apartments is not there. At one of the previous meetings last year, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought I heard, Joe, that you said that the trash pickups and delivery for the apartments, the trucks would have to be backing out. Does that mean they would be backing out into the Caremount lot where people are coming in and coming in from Kear Street, and then, going in and backing out of their parking spaces? That seems to be a problem. And also related to that is what's going to prevent both delivery trucks as well as residents coming in from the Caremount side on, let's say, on Underhill Avenue, and driving through the Caremount lot to get to their space at the apartments, which just creating more traffic for an already congested Caremount lot. And I think that's something that I would urge you, to consider. Also, in terms of something that was mentioned again last year, that the fire trucks would also have some of these access issues. I think there was a comment from the fire commissioner, from the fire inspector, and I'd like to know what's the board's practice in terms of getting recommendations, plan reviews from the fire inspector as opposed to the fire commissioners. They're two different bodies. And if the fire trucks have to park along the road, can the ladders then access all parts of the building? That's just a question that I'd like to know. And also, there was something in an earlier memo where it said some site plan modifications were needed to address the fire inspector's memo about parking lane. I don't know what that issue was, but is that something that you could look into? So there is a concern about that. I also would ask you to clarify for me the issue between the C2, the bulk regulations for C2R as opposed to C2. Unless I can't find it and I'm misreading the zoning code, I see no bulk regulations for C2R, nor do I see a reference in the code that set up the C2R zone that its bulk regulations would be the same as the C2. So it's just a question. On what basis are you assuming that the C2R bulk regulations are the exact same as the C2? And also, Joe clarified what's the front and the side yards in this case. So I would urge you to look not on the chart that's on the site plan on how the plan conforms to the bulk regulations, but to actually go back to the zoning code and see what the zoning code requires. Again, if you're going to use C2, are the bulk standards the same as what's listed on the chart? I have some questions about that. John Flynn also mentioned the location of the dumpster by the outdoor seating area. And I was confused because on 2 site plans shown today, and maybe because I've seen earlier site plans, is there still a dumpster that's planned? The commercial dumpster, is it still planned to be very close to the outdoor seating area for the residents? On the tree mitigation, I don't think there has been a tree mitigation plan. There was an earlier memo from the tree commission talking about what needs to be done. And obviously there seems to be a dispute as to the cumulative DBH that has to be worked out. But I would also like to remind the board that landscape plans are not the same thing as mitigation. And you do need, there will be trees that will come down, mitigation is required. And I urge you not to close the public hearing until there has been a communication from the tree commission as to a proper mitigation. And also, this is just for later on, in your, in any resolution, approval resolution, would you please add a condition that the trees along the 118, which I think will be in the state right-of-way, will need to be protected against, as you well know, during the construction, earth could be can't say the word, bulked up, but put against the trees and really destroy them over time. And those trees along 118 are very important, and they are actually off the property site. So some type of provision to guarantee that those trees stay healthy. And those are my comments, and mostly my questions, which I hope that you will consider as you look at this plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Robin, we have anybody else?
No.
Okay, so we had John.
Patrick Murphy wants to talk? He's the applicant.
Sure.
Hello, everybody. So I just had just a couple follow-ups. I've been driving through that parking lot of Caramont about the parking, and those bottom 10 spots that are adjacent between Caramont and the proposed plan, there are very, I have yet to see that parking lot full. So I just want to go on the record on that, you know, and Susan, I just want to note about the trees, about the DEP or the DOT, the trees that are along that line. If you look at those trees, there's a wire mesh running through all those trees. I've been trying to get in touch with DOT, and I just want to put them on notice that if they've been up there, there's wire running through them. So the integrity of those trees are already compromised as it is. So I just want to put that out there, because I want them to fix that, you know. We have no intention of doing anything to them, but, you know, I do want to, you know, offer to take those trees down and put up real ones, you know, on that surface. But they have not gotten back to me in the last 6 months. So those trees are going to stay put, and they're going to, there's wires running through those, a wire fence. So I just wanted to just let you know about that.
Thank you.
Rich, would you like me to address some of the comments?
By all means.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to say back in August, I, in writing, addressed John Flynn and Susan Siegel's comments, which were submitted to the board. Actually, I think it was before August. Maybe it was in June. In June 30th, we submitted a letter to the planning board addressing their comments. So I'm not going to go through all those responses again, but we did, I believe, successfully address those comments. In regards to some of the comments that were given tonight regarding the off-site parking, that's from an old plan. That no longer is the case. If I could share my screen, Robin. You all see that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That is no longer the case. There's no parking space proposed off-site. All of the 23 parking spaces are on-site. Regarding the dumpster, if the gates are left open, as you can see, the dumpster location has been, it's slightly recessed there. And frankly, if someone needs to get in the spot or get out of the spot and the gate is open, they will close the gate. I'm the type of person that when I pull into a shopping center parking lot, if there's a carriage there, I will get out of my car and move the carriage. So there are people that will do that if necessary. Regarding the open space, as stated, we meet the requirement, which is none, but we are providing some form of open or passive area for the residents. In addition to that, as I stated, within a short walking distance, there's a town park and trailway. So there is adequate facilities within a short walking distance for any of the residents if they would like a park-like setting or to go for a long walk. I don't even know how to respond to the coronavirus points that John made. Unless we want to have exterior staircases to the apartments, like a garden apartment, old-fashioned garden apartment, there's no way not to have a common corridor to access these apartments. And I don't think that's a look that the town is looking for. There are plenty of residential uses existing that people make do with and figure out a way to stay safe and entering and exiting. My daughter lives in New York City. She lives in an apartment building. They manage to stay safe and keep the common areas sanitized as necessary. Hopefully, I want to be optimistic that this coronavirus issue will not haunt us in the long term. In regards to the green building design, Joe Thompson, the architect, is not on with us tonight, but in his previous presentation, he mentioned all the green attributes of the building. So that there are, it's not a LEED building, but there's certainly many green infrastructure attributes built into the project. And regarding this site and the size of the site, we feel we've comfortably fit everything onto this site. It works. We've got a grade change that we're dealing with, and we're accommodating that grade change. It is not true that this site would never be able to be built even as a residential property, because if we recall, we've got parts of town that were built on smaller lots than this, R10 zone, even R20 zones are smaller. The lot sizes are smaller than this size lot. So that is not exactly true here. In regards to Susan's comments, regarding the driving through the Caremount site, I don't know if there's really anything wrong with that. I think that's the idea of having connectivity between sites, is to take the traffic off the main roads where possible. That's why it's good planning to interconnect shopping centers and other commercial uses. So I think that's a good thing. And lastly, regarding the fire truck, the commission and the fire inspector speaks for the commission. He attends the meetings, he presents the applications to the fire commission, and they speak through him. Regarding this site, they made it clear they would not bring their trucks into the parking lots on the site. That's not something that they would do. And they asked for fire lanes and posting drive. We've added that here. So you've got no parking fire zone with signage on both sides. So we've met that requirement. Lastly, regarding the TCAC and the proposition that we've made regarding the amount of trees that are being removed and the plantings that are put in place. And clearly, I think the code does speak to allowing landscaping as mitigation, number one. Number two, we responded back in August to their memo, and they have yet to respond to that, to our response. So I don't know how to take that at this point, but I think ample amount of time has gone by for them to respond to what our proposition was. And further, the applicant has stated and we have that in our letter from August 25th. August 25th, that if the planning board feels that additional mitigation is warranted, they would contribute to the tree bank monetarily and make up the difference if the planning board feels that they are lacking or short of that. With that said, I think, I don't have anything else to say other than we would like to have the public hearing on this closed this evening. We've had a public informational hearing already on this project. It's been kicking around for a while. It is not the planning board's fault that we've been gone for several months, but that's a side issue. But at this point, I think we've done our homework, and I think we've addressed everything that we've been asked to address. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay.
Anybody else, Robin?
No.
Oh, I think John wants to speak. I see him waving his hand. Go ahead, John. You're on mute.
Okay, I'm off mute. Okay, I didn't, maybe I missed it, but I didn't hear Joe address the questions with waste management, both the size of the dumpsters. I went up and talked to the caretaker, the guys who do the maintenance at York Ridge Apartments, as I was thinking about this site, and they tell me that they are just overwhelmed with cardboard. If I know John Tegeter has been talking at different venues about the Amazon effect, and these guys would certainly agree with them that they are, everybody up there is ordering things on Amazon, and instead of going to stores, and the result, one of the side effects of that, in addition to empty storefronts in brick and mortar places, is that apartments like this just are overwhelmed by the cardboard boxes. And so I didn't hear Joe address that. And at least cardboard doesn't smell, so, which that commercial dumpster probably will, if particularly if there's a restaurant in that commercial use. So I'd like to also hear Joe's response to my question about putting that one commercial dumpster within 5 foot of the apartment buildings.
Sure. So that commercial dumpster was moved. It's now in this location here. It is not.
Oh, okay. That's
adjacent to the building. Okay. And as far as the size of the dumpsters, we spoke to, we called the county, Westchester County, on this, and got their recommendation. So for the residential portion of the property, would have the ability for 2 4 cubic yard containers, one for recyclables and one for trash. And then for the commercial, we've got enough for 1 8-yard or 2 6-yard containers, depending if they need to meet a recycling need, then they can have both they could go either way, full trash or trash and recycling containers.
That certainly addresses my question in terms of that commercial dumpster under.
Yeah. But we checked with the county on that. We got their recommendation on that.
Okay.
You know, to address the, as John and I'm sure John Tegeter called the Amazon effect, this is absolute fact. You know, it's amazing what's being left out on the road, but it's the responsibility of the property manager to deal with that. You know, you have to break down the boxes. You have to recycle correctly. You know, I think Jake Hopstein just asked about food scraps. You know, there's a lot of things changing in the county and the way we pick up garbage. But a lot of that could be handled by the company picking up the garbage. It might be an intensity of, you know, maybe it's not twice a week being picked up. Maybe it's got to be picked up 3 times a week. And again, that's something that's going to have to be addressed, I think, as we look at these applications and by the responsibility of the management companies. But it's a very valid point. Anybody else?
Just to add to that, Rich, what about the individuals? I mean, as you know, we're talking about how life has changed for all of us and whatnot. What about the individual? They should take a little responsibility for their trash. I mean, you know, boxes need to be broken down. The management should let them know, we want you to break your boxes down and put it in their hand. I don't know, maybe that's old school thinking and everybody wants a handheld with everything now, but I think the individual should take responsibility.
What's old is new again, Joe.
What's that?
I said, what's old is new again.
I guess.
All right, Rob, are we missing anybody? I think some very good points were brought up. Some other questions we need answered that maybe Jim's gonna have to take a look at. I know there was questions about segmentation.
It looks like Susan wants to ask another question.
My.
Yeah, Joe, I agree with you that, you know, connectivity between different uses through one parking lot is a good idea, but I don't think you addressed, and I hope the board will consider the issue of the trucks backing out of the residential parking lots into a very busy Caremount lot where it also is the entrance and exit for the Caremount patrons. I think, and I hope that the town board will look at that. The bottom part with the retail, there is space allotted for trucks to back out, rather to turn around, okay, but not up on the top. And I don't know if any adjustments can be made there for a safer egress from that parking lot, because I see that as a concern for the issue. And also, can you just confirm that on the difference between the fire commission and the fire inspector, that the memo that the fire inspector wrote was based on a meeting of the commissioners and wasn't just a meeting, wasn't just a comment from the fire commissioner, from the fire inspector, sorry.
We will get verification of that.
What Joe said is correct.
Okay.
Okay, so the fire inspector is writing based on what the commissioners have said. It's okay. And please double check the tree law about landscaping. I do not think that landscaping counts as part of mitigation. Okay, landscaping is a basic requirement that you make for a site plan review. Has nothing to do with mitigating the loss of trees. And I don't know if the tree commission was really informed that this hearing was being, that the application was being revised. If they don't follow these planning board meetings, religiously, as some people do, they just didn't know that things were left hanging last year. I think it was July or August when it was just pulled from the agenda. So that they very much would like to speak to you, Joe, and work out a plan. Obviously, you're not going to plant back as many trees as was taken down. The site doesn't call for that, obviously, but I think the contribution into the tree fund would be a logical portion of a mitigation plan.
Okay, thank you, Susan.
And just to go back to the garbage trucks, I did respond, and I gave a response to that on my June 30th response letter.
Okay, I had asked Robert for a copy of that. Thank you.
Yeah.
That it, Robin? Okay.
Joe, I have a question for you. What's the date of your latest revision on the site plan?
8/25 was the latest revision.
Of what, of last year?
Yeah.
So the one I'm looking at still has the trash enclosure, right adjacent to that patio.
And it's dated 8/25?
Yes.
So something's wrong. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, no, I don't know why that, let me just make sure that's the date. That date is correct.
And that's what it says on this one.
Are you looking at the revision date?
No.
Yeah.
Are you looking at the plans in the planning board books? The meeting packet? That's not what's in the meeting packet.
This is what you put up. I have a site plan, originally March 14th, and then second revision August 25th. And it still contains a reference to an 8x10 8-yard container trash enclosure, right adjacent to the building.
Yeah, that might, okay. Maybe that was like a misplaced note, and then it got moved to where I'm showing it here. That'd be my guess.
Down at the.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably what happened.
And let me just ask one other question. There's 2 patio seating areas, correct?
Yes.
And the top one has, on the plan, it shows 2 tables. I think in the elevation it showed 1. That's even with the upper story of the building, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And the lower one with the 4 tables, where is that even with?
That's with the retail space.
And that has nothing to do with, that would not be available for the tenants that reside in the building, is that correct?
If they want to, sure, they could use that.
But supposing that you say it's associated with the retail, and in your presentation earlier, you talked about food service. So who gets priority and what's the proper use of that?
Well, clearly, I mean, it's meant for the retail space. I guess if one of the tenants from up above is going to go, I don't know why they would go down to that area unless they're going to the retail space to patron the retail space and want to sit down there.
So
but otherwise, I don't see any reason why they would do that, to be honest.
So it's really not available to them.
Yeah, it's not meant to be, but nothing would stop them from going there. Yeah.
Okay, and I assume that this side of the property has the same, steep grade between the 2 levels, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else from the board? Okay, so what do we want to do here?
I would make a motion to close the public hearing.
Do we want to leave it open for public comment for a period of time?
That's fine. That's typical.
You want to say 10 days?
10 days would be great.
Any issue with that, Jim?
No. If you want, I can address the segmentation issue now.
Yeah, that would be appropriate, I think.
I don't believe this treatment of this application is segmentation. Segmentation is a conscious decision by an approving agency to divide an action into multiple steps for the purpose of evading environmental review. An example of that would be if the board only reviewed the retail portion of the project and not the whole project combined. What you have here is there was an abutting property that was developed earlier pursuant to a separate site plan. It did not commit the planning board to review or approve this particular action. So it's not as if the approval of the medical facility across the street forced the planning board to approve this project, which would not come in until sometime later. So I don't believe there's any segmentation here. A decision was made to submit one project several years ago. That project was reviewed on its merits and approved. And so the only thing to do with this project is to review it on its merits, although you can consider the impact of the project across the street in making your decision.
Thank you. And John Taggart, are any inkling of the tree board and where they are with their response to John's request or to Joe's request?
I don't have any of that yet, but my last discussions with Joe Rena was to the effect that the mitigation plan is still in development. So I know that he offered some mitigation, but we haven't finished our conversations along those lines, and nor do I think that the tree commission is completely finalized on it. I may be wrong in that, but I haven't heard that from them yet. So I think the mitigation plan is still being looked at before it's final.
Okay. All right, so we've got a suggestion for closing the public hearing with a 10-day written period. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
So
I'd like to have a moment of discussion on that. I mean, again, we faced a very similar issue to this 2 weeks ago when we had a tree plan that was incomplete, and we held part of the meeting, part of the hearing open for resolution of that question. I'm wondering if we might want to do the same thing here or hold the whole thing open in light of some of the substantive issues that were raised at this evening's hearing.
Okay. Anybody else want to talk to that?
I don't think it's necessary.
No, I don't think it's necessary either.
So at one of the last discussions we had at the last meeting, as Aaron said, we held open one of the applications. We adjourned the public hearing pending the tree permit. I don't think that resulted in any change that I really know of to the application. In fact, it got approved. John, any damage in leaving this open for 10 days pending a tree mitigation plan?
Are you asking me?
Yes, sorry, John.
Is there any reason to not hold it open? Yes. Is that what you're saying?
Or is there any reason to hold it open for that one like we did last time?
Well, I think the one that we had last time was, not to any reasonable, acceptable level. I think Nantucket has proposed what is reasonably acceptable tree mitigation. I'm saying that it's not finalized. There can be some things that are slightly modified, so they said if needed, we can add to the tree fund. To which extent you add to the tree fund, there may be a little bit more planting. Those kinds of things is what I'm talking about. I think that they have developed a minimally acceptable or somewhat acceptable tree mitigation plan, and I'm just suggesting that between the tree commission and my staff, we'll be finalizing our thoughts on it. I don't think there'll be substantive changes that we'll come up with to that in that regard. So,
okay.
And we're okay with that. Just leaving that as a point that still needs to be taken a little further to bring it back to you to say, okay, this is where we're coming from now after meeting with John and the tree commission.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I say that my opinion is it's not necessary. We're talking about a much smaller lot here. That other application, was substantially larger with substantially more trees. I mean, I think we were talking about hundreds of trees on the other site. And, this is a downtown lot that is substantially smaller with infrastructure, water and sewer, sidewalks and everything else, and not a several acre site on an 11-foot wide road in the middle of the woods somewhere. So for those reasons, I think, it's going to be what it is, and we're not approving a site plan by any means. We would have to have satisfaction of the tree ordinance and a landscape plan and everything else that goes into a site plan approval. I don't see the need personally to hold this open in any regard, and separate it as we did with that other site. That's my
John Kincart, thank you for the comments. I think for me, it's a function of where we are in the review process. And as John Tegeter pointed out, this is a much more developed tree mitigation plan than the earlier application 2 weeks ago. So
right.
I'm okay with proceeding on the basis of that.
Great.
Okay, so I think we had a motion by La Scala. I think it was seconded by Garrigan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on. Next, we have 650 Pines Bridge Road. This is a public hearing. Locations also 650 Pines Bridge Road. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion.
Second.
It was first by
second was Scala's
second by Bach. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, Dan, you're on.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
We had the informational hearing on this one last year, so we're back before you, finalizing it, having our final hearing, and discussing the changes that have been made since that last time. But for everybody's help here, we're going to go through the fundamentals of the project. It's located, and maybe what I should do is share my screen here.
Please, thank you.
Let's see, which one do we want? We want that one.
Oh, what did I do?
Everybody got that?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just go back just to set the context here. The subdivision is located over here, which is Pines Bridge Road. This is Route 134, and nearby where it comes into Route 100. Folks know there's like a little triangle over here where Pines Bridge Road and 134 meet. And I'm joined this evening by Alex Cochran, who's a principal of 650 Pines Bridge, or actually Pines Bridge Road LLC. So this project is 8.06 acres. It has a very large house over here. It has a garage, it has a barn, a tennis court, and a large in-ground pool. So as part of this application, we're not proposing to do anything with this. Several years ago, we did, after it was purchased by the applicant, we did do this several years ago. We upgraded the septic system to accommodate the existing house. So that was all worked out with the health department, and basically to set this up so it potentially could be subdivided at some point in the future. And I guess that some point would be now. These lots over here that border the property are on Wild Green Terrace. And then there's some other homes on the other side of the street over here. So we're proposing 3 lots. The largest of them, whereas the existing home will remain, is 4.23 acres. We have this other lot, which is 1.95 acres, and this one, lot 2, which is 1.88. So all the lots conform with the R80 zoning district requirements. So we've been bouncing around between the various boards. We've been to the Conservation Board. We've also been working with the Tree Advisory Commission, trying to work out our mitigation with them. Since the last time we did submit the stormwater management plan, as well as the board had asked for, we generated an aerial photo map to kind of show the context of the neighborhood, and I guess to the extent that the canopy over these, and also to see the open areas, I guess, of the adjacent parcel. So there were comments last go around about various applications and forms and SWIP and so forth. So I guess the two biggest issues before us to wrap this thing up is that we're trying to put together a tree mitigation plan. We met back with we've done a complete tree survey. We met with the tree committee, I believe, back in November to have they did come out to the site and looked at what we had here. We did send a letter spelling out some things we were proposing in terms of removing invasives and so forth. So the situation as we have it right now, and I guess I can bounce over to this is the tree removal plan. Those X's represent the trees that have to come out. And as just a point of clarification, because this also dovetails with some of the comments we got from the DEP memo which was dated today, we're only showing the septic, the primary area, since we really, there's the expansion area might not be required for decades, so there really didn't seem any real reason to be showing that being cleared at this time. But that's the trees that are coming down. We've got a total of, I think it was 84 trees that we needed to remove to develop the lots. And then there was another 6 that one of the neighbors had requested over concerns that a tree could fall across Pines Bridge and damage their home. So we've included those 6 additional trees. We've showing, I think one of the comments was, where's the landscaping going? So we are showing some trees over here. These are green giants to provide some screening between the adjacent properties. And then we had 4 deciduous trees that we put in other locations. So we still, I guess really at this point, we really haven't gotten any real feedback from the tree committee. So I guess we still need to work with them to see what the suite of improvements that we can suggest that would address our requirements for mitigation, whether it be planting trees, removing invasive shrubs, as well as if we need to make some sort of contribution to the fund, we would be doing that. Final point I just wanted to make, with this application, the applicant will not be developing these lots. So these will be developed at sometime down the road. There's no immediate plans for development. They may be developed by 2 different people. It's really unknown at this point, but the sale of these lots is not pending, and they will probably remain undeveloped for some time. And at that time, we're demonstrating that houses can work here, but I'm sure the footprint of the driveways and the number of bedrooms, all these things could change based upon the preferences of whoever the ultimate applicant who constructs the home is. So that's really the sum and substance of the application. And I just wanted to say one other thing. I guess the board members and I guess the public are aware that the town has retained me to be doing engineering services. And normally I wouldn't be in the situation I'm in tonight, but we've been working on this project for several years. And in fact, the notices for this application went out prior to me knowing for certain that I was going to be doing some work for the town. So in order to prevent any sort of conflict of interest or, even the appearance of it, will work. Perhaps I think what's going to end up happening is perhaps have another engineer review these plans, and that these are final plans or close to them, and see to it that that review takes place without me being involved.
Yeah, Dan.
Presentation for the evening, and I'm ready for any questions from the board or from the public.
Dan, just real quick, we did have an opportunity to touch on the application and you being appointed by the town board to act as one of the town engineers. It's also our understanding that there is another that's been appointed along with you.
That's correct. Lynn Starr has also been retained to help the town out.
Right. So just to be clear to anybody out there, you will not be reviewing your own plans.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, obviously that would be a bad thing.
That would be a bad thing, yes. We also, Dan, just going through the background notes, I also saw an open memo from the Conservation Board from dating back to January about mitigation comments and their wish for that to be followed up on. Is there anything else with that?
I have one from the October 22nd.
I think they're looking for the
well,
mitigation.
The two things, I guess, would be the tree issue, to again, touching on the mitigation and coming up with an appropriate mitigation plan, and the stormwater, the SWIP, stormwater pollution prevention plan, which I believe, I know we submitted. I believe it was subsequent to this memorandum, though.
All right, because I know at the last meeting we talked about it. You said Mr. Cochran actually gone out and started to destroy some of the invasives before the plan got approved.
Well, they're still lying on the ground there, so you can go.
Okay, so there's proof of the work. But so that there's the memo from New York City. There's the tree board mitigation, and there's also the conservation board mitigation. So I'd ask the board, what's our thoughts on this one? So we have three agencies that have questions right now.
Let me help clarify the conservation board memo.
Share the tree mitigation plan when developed.
Okay, so that, according to my sources.
I step in?
Yeah, why don't you explain what you mean by that?
Hi, Phyllis.
Hello, sorry that if this was confusing. That when a tree mitigation plan was developed by the applicant that satisfied the tree commission, that it should be shared with us.
Okay.
Sorry.
So
well, thank you.
It's not wetlands or anything, it's trees.
Yeah, trees.
Okay. And Dan, by the way, as an aside, congratulations on returning to the town.
Yes, congratulations. All right, so now that we've got some clarity on that, anybody have a suggestion on how to proceed? I think first and foremost, I apologize. Go through the rounds. John, any issues on your end, John Taggart?
Well, I think there was dovetailing off the discussion about the tree mitigation. I think that needs to be finalized. I don't think it's necessarily in the same condition as the last one. I think there needs to be some real rolling up of sleeves here along with the tree commission.
Okay.
We did speak before about utilizing the property behind that at one time was offered to, there was an easement that would give that that property some access from Pines Bridge Road. So that's the property I'm talking about. I know we're not talking about the access any longer, but certainly it is a forest piece, which there may be some invasives and so forth that can be removed from there. There could be some possible tree planting that could be done on it, and there can be some understory, native understory, that could potentially be planted on that piece. That would, I think, I think that all needs to be talked about. I know that we had light discussions on it, but I don't think that they were finalized or that in depth. So that's the what I'm thinking about here. As far as the two lots being sold and then developed by whichever individual buys one or buys two, that is something that we'll have to think about a little bit in terms of the resolution and what you're actually approving at the moment, because they're likely to come back. And certainly I don't think that you want to hang out some of this, some of the permits, such as the stormwater, hang that out there and then, have somebody go forward and change things, even though that they have a permit. So I think there's some discussion along that. That's mostly related to any resolution that you'll adopt.
Okay.
Right, but that doesn't preclude us from closing the public hearing. We've had several comments from the public, neighbors, all along throughout the process. Once again, I cling to the fact that we're going to be looking at this into the future and deciding what's appropriate and what's not appropriate, correct?
I agree with that.
Hi, everyone. I did talk to the different parties involved, and I don't think the other property is going to make sense for us to do anything on right now. There is a possibility that that's going to have a different owner soon, and so it's going to get too complicated to try and do stuff over there. So we'd like to do any type of mitigation, have the plan set for this property alone, and figure out what we can do there.
Right, and you're aware, Alex, of your options, right? I mean, there's the tree fund, there's work you can do on your own property here, there's work you can contribute to planting on other town-owned properties, or even possibly removing invasives on other town-owned properties. So there's a plethora of options that might be considered, or that you might present to us to have us consider, even if it's not with that property adjacent, in the rear. So
is that property on the market?
No, there could be a private party purchasing that property.
Yeah, I'm just suggesting that if there are mitigation measures that could be done there, it's close, it's accessible, it's right next door, meaning close that it has a nexus to this tree removal. So if it's possible to do some mitigation there, let's say shortly after you have this approval, and that mitigation is finished, and then it changes hands, that the mitigation plan has been largely completed for this project for all time.
Yeah, I guess
I think that's something to seriously think about on your part. You're removing about 84 trees, and you're planting back about 10. That's a shortfall that has to be made up by other measures.
That's kind of what I've been hoping to hear back from the tree committee on that, because I wasn't sure what X amount of work clearing invasive counts for is in relation to the number of trees, etc. So I was hoping for some type of feedback, but I guess you would like us to present something rather than you guys giving us feedback on that.
Well, I think it's a part A and part B answer. I mean, to the extent that you can evaluate all of the property that you have available to do mitigation and evaluate it to see what you can do, that comes up with a certain amount of mitigation that this board and the tree commission can actually evaluate, rather than wait for the tree commission to sort of pick through and suggest some things to you. So
okay,
you have 3-4 properties here available to slay the beast here in terms of tree mitigation, so to speak. I would go after them. I mean, I think that's probably will end up as being the most practical for you.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, thanks.
All right, as this is a public hearing, we're going to open it up to the public. Does anybody have any concerns or questions? Just raise your hand, as we did in the prior public hearing.
Susan has indicated she wanted to speak.
Go ahead, Susan.
Good evening again. First of all, thank you very much for the your concern about the tree mitigation. I appreciate that, and I'm sure that something can be worked out to everyone's satisfaction. Could you possibly give more clarification, work something out with Dan on your new position, because we don't know how long it's going to be. I don't know if the town is going to be hiring a new engineer off civil service list or if they're going for an RFP, but it could be a lengthy process. And when the town board passed the resolutions to hire both Dan and Linstar on a temporary basis, they didn't distinguish what tasks each of the engineers were doing. And also, I don't know Dan, what else you might have on your plate that would normally come before the planning board. But I think some more clarification, is needed. Will Linstar, for example, be able to act as the acting town engineer to review CRCA site plans as a private engineer? And is that still a conflict? Even if Linstar is reviewing his plans, the fact that he is still wearing two hats at the same time. I don't know that the town has ever had a situation like this, but considering that we don't know, this might go on for 2, 3, hopefully not 4 months, perhaps some additional thought has to be given to what can and what should be done from an ethical standpoint to avoid any potential conflicts of interest.
Yes, Susan.
Can you tie that into 650 Underhill, 650 Plainsbridge Road?
Excuse me?
Are you going to tie that into a question about 650 Plainsbridge Road?
Well, yes, because he is working as the engineer, and I think he did say, and obviously he made it clear that, as acting town engineer, he's not going to review his own plan. But we still don't know who will be reviewing that plan. Is that something that Linstar will be doing? Because I don't know the terms of the agreement between Linstar and Dan CRCA in terms of what responsibilities each will do. And is it clearly defined, or do the two engineering firms work together and kind of split it up between themselves informally? So yes, it's related to Pinesbridge, but I guess in many respects, it is a broader question that just happened to come up during this hearing. So the town, you might want to just deal with it as a separate issue after the public hearing.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a question for the town board and the legal eagles. So they'll have to come up with clarity on that. Obviously, the planning board or Dan included, or any member of the staff on Yorktown want to be, above board on everything we do. So we'll get answers to that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I know the DEP memo, which thankfully, because of your new procedures and the packet was made available, I saw that there was a DEP memo, and I just glanced at it, but it did seem to raise several issues. So yes. I assume you'll all be looking at that very carefully. Thank you.
Yep. Anybody else, Robin?
No.
I thought I saw Nancy wave her hand. Did she have a question?
She's just saying hi.
All right. Jim, we missing anything on your end?
Nothing that I can see.
John, anything else you want to mention? John Tegeter?
I don't have anything else, no.
All right, so to the board, we've heard from the public and all of the parties. What's the thought process here? We have a New York City memo that's open. We've heard from the Conservation Board that they were just waiting on the tree board. I think John Tegeter very clearly spelled out that there's a few more issues with this mitigation than there was the last. Do we think we want to hold this open, or close it with a written period?
I would close it.
I think we can close it and kind of treat it the same way, but we can close the public hearing. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second it.
There was a motion by Rob to close the public hearing. Is that with the 10-day written period?
Sure.
I think so. And I think I heard a second by Kincart.
Sure.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
All right, Dan, again, congratulations.
Thank you. And I'll continue to listen in since I got to get up to speed on everything. So I'm not up to speed on all these projects, but if you got a generic question or something, I'll be listening in through the rest of the meeting.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, I'll put my other hat on now.
Hey, Rich, can I, just before we move on to the next agenda item, can I make a quick comment?
Absolutely.
We've had, there's been 3 applicants tonight, I think, that all have understood their obligations and their responsibilities as it comes to creating appropriate mitigation plans. And I feel like we're failing them a little bit because we're not giving them the feedback or the direction that's needed. As John pointed out, there's a number of options that these applicants can avail themselves to. Even, I guess, just monetarily, to the tree fund. But I feel as though we need to give them some assistance. And I don't know if that's us or it's the tree commission or if there's somebody else that can help them understand, how to do the right thing. Because each one of them, I think, have all said, we know our responsibilities here. We want to do that. So I don't know if this is a topic for another conversation, but I feel like there's something more that we could do to providing some advice to get quicker to an appropriate mitigation plan.
No, I agree with you. I think it's a very appropriate question. And you're right. It's, I'm not sure where it would get fixed. It certainly seems like everybody's aware of the board and they've been in front of them. It's just to what the mitigation could be, is it they're not presenting what they need to the board, not us, our board, but the tree board. So I agree. It's something because you're right. The last 3, the tie-ups have been with the tree mitigation for the most part.
Well, I think, Rich, as you always say, get with the staff. And John Tegeter is very knowledgeable and, speaks right to the point as he just did a moment ago. If they get with the staff in pre-application meetings or even during the course of their, pursuing approvals, I think that's going to be something that would be very helpful to them. It'll save time and money for them. It'll save time and discussion for us at meetings in terms of, dragging things out on an agenda, making proposals or giving them ideas where, if they get together with their professionals and our professionals, namely the planning staff, I think, it would move them along quicker, give them a better understanding, and give them a context. I mean, something like the Pines Bridge Road application, obviously, where you have an adjacent piece of land that's substantial in size and more than likely has, all kinds of invasives and that kind of thing. I mean, we've been saying that for years. We have a couple hundred acres on Stony Street that the town acquired a few years back that, it's just rampant with all kinds of invasives. And as a matter of fact, if John Flynn is still listening, I think he even proposed mitigation along the Taconic Parkway at one point, or in FDR Park as part of the original Costco application. But, I don't know that we're going to have any kind of intermunicipal agreements or agreements with the state or the county or whatever, but certainly we have enough land of our own where applicants could come in and really make a real contribution to the health of the forest in the town. We've talked about this forever, but I think the key, and to your point, Rob, and to just echo what Rich has said on a number of occasions, getting with the town staff, I think, is what's going to help them the most.
I think echoing what John Flint had said earlier about the COVID kind of changing things. I mean, what this Zoom is giving us, especially in the workplace, at least I think on the governmental end, is the ability to get everybody in this type of setting where you could share the drawings and go through them. And I know John and Robin have made themselves, and I think it's a credit to the town, very available to discuss, these applications and work with it. And I'm sure the building inspector and now our consulting engineers will be able to chime in. And I'm wondering if we should, reach out or ask maybe is there the tree board chairman or the group maybe to meet with us and maybe at the next meeting and kind of talk about what they think, if anything, we could be doing to help them with the process. Obviously, it's a relatively new process.
And maybe what their priorities are, right?
Yeah, I mean,
That's a great idea.
I think it would really, good point, guys, and Rob. I think it could be very helpful. So maybe John and Robin, we could set that up.
All right, guys, I'm still listening. I guess my problem was I had emailed the tree board a few times and didn't really get much response. And we've tried, since I guess December, January, several times emailing back and forth with them. I really only got one response that wasn't. You just basically gave me some of the, the guidelines, but as far as specific information relating to us and what we should do or offer, I guess that's what I was looking for. But I think we can.
I think Mr. Cochran, I think it's a point well received. As I think yourself, I know the next applicant kind of got through the process. It looks relatively quickly, but I think Rob's point is very, very well taken here. Where we, as the town, we're supposed to be helping the applicants get to where they need to be. So let's meet with the tree board and move from here. Good point, Rob. Thank you.
All right, you have a great night, all.
You too.
Good night, Alex.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, we're going to move on to our next item. This is the Stammer Subdivision Lot 2. This is an adjourned public hearing for a tree permit, or hearing tree permit. Location is 535 Jerome Road. We have Mr. Scott. How are you?
Very good, thank you. I have basically submitted and gone to the Conservation Commission with a tree mitigation plan. I'll share it with you in a moment. I think the shortfall in the process comes about. The regulations indicate that when you apply to the town engineer for a respective permit, one of which includes a tree permit, which we did, you're supposed to be referred to the Conservation Board and the Tree Commission. And in my case, we had a tree permit in place with the subdivision. And so we were told that we didn't have to get a tree permit. Nevertheless, we responded at our last public hearing. But I think when future applicants apply, the town engineer, right per the ordinance, is supposed to refer them to those two commissions upon receipt. And that would help out a lot of people because it's a new ordinance. We read it about 5 times front and back. And we tried to follow the regs. And I think we came up with a good plan I could share with you at this point in time, if that's possible.
Please.
Yeah, just one thing. You can put up the plan, but I just want to comment that I think what you're reading there, Peter, is when an application is under the authority of the town engineer, then he does those things.
Okay.
So
referral.
Yeah, I think the confusion with yours, unfortunately, was the fact that A, you had a tree permit, but B, it predated this current law, and also, as you heard a minute ago, the current law is relatively new, and we are, learning our own law because it's really so new, unfortunately. So.
Yeah, I appreciate all the work. I'm just trying to indicate where.
Yep, I get you.
Let me share this, if I may.
Thank you.
So this project before you basically consists of an expansion of a subdivision. And the first part of our project is that we basically showed the limits of disturbance of what we're proposing. We showed all the tree removal with the original approval. This was the original house that was approved for this project. And we show you the new house shape, overlaid that. And we showed where our expansions in the disturbances are from the original subdivision. The ordinance seems to indicate that a permit is exempt for the septic systems. It's one of the exemptions. So we're looking really at all the little red dots you see over here. Those are all extra trees that had to be cleared for our particular project. We're a solar project. We have a solar roof component, and what we did is we faced the gable end of our house toward the tree lines. We needed to clear that many, and we're clearing typically in the southwest corridor where our sun is coming from, and that's kind of the basis of what we're doing with this project. Hopefully this will open up. Bear with me. Okay. So what we propose for mitigation is we looked at the function of what the trees accomplish for the project, and we worked accordingly. We used a three system approach to the project. The first thing we did is we mitigated a fantastic grove of bamboo in this area. And we're not sure what it counts for when you do your DBHs, but there is about a 2-inch tree every 12 inches on center for an area which is 20 by 60. So just by eliminating, we're going to cut them out, dig out the roots. We have to burn everything as a mitigation approach. You can't give it away to somebody and create more bamboo somewhere else. And then we're putting in a 4-foot deep plastic liner nested in the ground 4 feet deep, which is what Save a Tree says they do for eliminating bamboo. So there was a lot of, that's first part of our mitigation right here. The second part is we looked at what the function of the trees are. And basically the trees are to give a buffer for development from the neighboring properties. This proposed and approved lot 1 of the 3 lots for the subdivision, is clearing right up to the property line with their septic system. And there's no room for them to put anything on the property to buffer our project from theirs. And because we're downhill from them, the best approach we took was to put in a very extensive buffer. It's over, it's 400 foot long, and we're putting in something called a skip laurel. It's an evergreen. It grows between 10 and 18 feet tall and is 5 to 7 feet wide. And what's great about it is incredibly deer resistant, and it makes a very dense buffer. So skip laurel is right along here on that portion of the project. And taking the concept again in that direction, we also are proposing a buffer along the septic system right here. And here we're using something called North American arborvitaes. And they grow about, they're called Black American arborvitae. They grow 20 to 30 feet tall, but they're narrow in width. And that's the only way I can fit in, again, a buffer for the neighbors where my septic system is being cleared. And again, I'm providing a visual buffer here. And the last buffer is we're going with green giant arborvitae. Again, we're blocking this home, which is due north of us. And it's a very dense buffer. And again, it'll protect the house, because this house and this house are at the same elevation. A really tall tree, 50 to 60 feet tall. They're 10 to 20 feet wide, and it'll create a very dense buffer. Just for interest's sake, we own this lot here, and at this time, even though it's a part of an approved subdivision, no proposals to develop it at this point in time. We'll have to come back with another planting plan there, take care of any neighbors to the north west of us. Off to the south, it's a very large cleared field which extends off to the south. And again, we're leaving all these trees intact with our proposed plan. And so when we did the mathematics, we needed 160 trees for mitigation. We proposed 136 trees, plus actually the ordinance does indicate that you can put herbaceous tree bushes and ground cover for mitigation around the house. And we have 840 square feet of that. And also, again, as I mentioned before, to make up our shortfall of 54 trees, we're eliminating an invasive species, which is a DBH of 2,400. And so we basically, I looked at what the function is. We accomplished that. We provided the buffers. We're making our solar energy work by only clearing in the south and the western direction for our solar gain, for our roof and its orientation we have. And again, everyone is being directly buffered to the neighborhood so they don't see our house. And that's the proposal I have for you. Any comments?
Thank you. Any comments from the board? John, anything on your end, John?
No, I don't have anything.
Jim?
Nothing from me.
All right, as this is an adjourned public hearing, anything else from the public?
If I may, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Jay.
the several issues were brought up before the ZBA. I don't know if you got a memo from the ZBA or not. It had to do with a model house, and it appeared to be more like a commercial demonstration project than model house, with one person possibly living there, with other people walking through, looking in closets and etc. And they also commented on the size of the home office and the like. So first, to me, it looks more like a commercial project in a residential neighborhood. And again, I wonder if you got a memo from the ZBA on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
If I could comment very quickly. We have submitted a letter to the ZBA. We're eliminating all customers visiting the site. It'll be restricted. We're taking that component off, and my client is getting commercial space off site for anyone who'd want to view the house. It'll be a virtual view from another location, so that whole commercial concern has been eliminated.
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
But he's gonna let us come see it, right, Peter?
No, not
Is the
John.
home office excluded now?
Go ahead, Jay, I'm sorry.
Is the home office now off the excluded?
No, the home office will remain with, again, only 3 people utilizing it. It's in conformance to the regs.
So that's still before the ZBA. They haven't approved that yet.
That is correct. We just filed that letter. I think we're on next week or something, or Thursday maybe? Thursday, I think.
Okay, anybody else from the public, Robin?
Not that I see.
Okay, so for the board, we have in front of us the application. Are we concerned about the open ZBA?
No, we need.
Thoughts?
I don't think so.
No.
That's a separate issue as far as I'm concerned. They need it if they want the home office.
Yeah.
Okay. All right then. Do I have a motion from the board to act as lead agency?
You want to close the hearing first?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we should
I'm
close
sorry.
the public hearing. I move
Thank
to
you,
close
Mr.
the
Bob.
public hearing.
Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second? First by Kinkart, second by Mr. Bach. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Now, do I have a motion to declare the planning board as the lead agency?
So moved.
It was first by Bach, second by Kinkart. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have a neg deck in front of us. It is dated, oh, I can't see the date.
I don't think I put a date because I'll put the date when you do it, which
Okay.
would then be today.
So it will be dated March 8th, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve the neg deck?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
First by La Scala, second by Garrigan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. And then we have, let me scroll down to it. We have in front of us a resolution approving an amended site plan, stormwater pollution prevention plan permit, tree permit, and special use permit for a large scale solar power generation system for the Stammer Subdivision Lot 2. I have a motion.
Motion.
Second.
It was first by Bach, second by La Scala. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Mr. Scott, thank you very much for all your help with this application.
Very much.
Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing this building up.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
All right, do I have a motion to close the regular portion of the meeting and move into the work session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
First by Kinkart, second by La Scala. I want to just remind the audience to keep your cameras off and mics muted. The work session is a discussion between the applicant and the board. Thank you. All right, first on the agenda is the Ellington Road Dam. This is a town board referral. The location is 408 Ellington Road. It looks like we got Mr. Scott again. You're back.
Yes, hi, I'm back.
How are you?
Very good, thank you. Quick history before I can show you a drawing. Ellington Road, the Ellington Road Dam is a repair of an existing dam. My client purchased it about 10 years ago. The property was owned by the town of Yorktown. And during the process of getting approvals, including approval, they had to get the land from the state of New York because it was deemed a park at that time. And so it was signed off by the governor. The dam failed because trees fell into the dam and basically breached it. And so we have a breached dam on the property adjacent to my client. Secondly, then, so we had to get permits from DEC, DEP, Army Corps, an Indian tribe, the Delaware Indians. Who else? You name it, we got a permit from them. Actually, 20 permits are issued to get the dam approved. And we got it approved. And during all this time period, we went to the town engineer and he approved the SWIPs and everything we have. So every single thing was approved. But now we're before you to talk about the tree permit and what's going on in the project. A quick intro is that trees are not permitted within any earthen dams or within a certain distance, half the height of a tree within a perimeter of a dam. So our tree removal is required for our New York State DEC dam permit. And so basically, kind of our presentation is we're kind of exempt for taking the trees down because I have to take them down for other agencies who govern dams in the state of New York. But nevertheless, my client is willing to put trees on the property And I'll try and get you to share that now with you if I may. Let's see. Can you guys see that?
No.
No.
Okay, hold on. Bear with me. So this is a picture of what's going on with the project. My client owns this property to the south. And there's about a 110-acre watershed running down these rivers, which are pushing through this dam site. The new dam we're building is right here, and I can go into other details if you'd like. But the gist of the whole project is the stream, after the dam failed, the stream was created to the remnants of the pond base and kind of extended off in this direction off to the new reservoir. It's not affecting any neighbors, but it did wash out into a big wetland to the north of us on its way dissipating the water. The concept is that we have to dredge all this silty material, which is located in this portion of the project. It has to be leaving the site through a corridor which extends to Ellington Road, which serves as frontage to the west. The DEC has a massive herbaceous planting plan, which was approved by them, which consists of 1,200 plants, and that's around the perimeter. But they aren't trees because we're not allowed to put trees on there. So what they are is shrubs and herbaceous bushes, but nothing woody because that's in the dam regulations. You can't have anything with big roots wants to seek water, and it causes a void in dams. And I've done a lot of dams. This is a common problem with these. And so all the tree clearing is done on this berm that exists now and along the roadway, because what happened is this portion along the stream is filled with trees at unusual high angles of leaning, like up to 45 degrees, and they're all falling into the pond because a tree eroded all the stream as it migrates toward Ellington. Has wiped out all the roots for all the trees. They're all falling into the pond. We are armoring this entire side of the pond with stone. So what we came up with is my client elected to do the following. We have a very extensive tree planting, basically of what's being impacted by the project. And what's being impacted by the project is the visibility of it from Ellington Road. So what we're planting is we have a holly buffer here, which is near a Revolutionary War historic cemetery. We're putting the holly in here so you don't see this dam structure in the rear of it. We're putting Norway spruces in here, 18 total. Norway spruces grow about 80 feet tall. They get about 30 foot in diameter. And again, they cannot be, deer hate them. So it's a fantastic place to put all these trees. And we place them back enough from the road so that we won't have any encroachment problems ever when they grow to their full height. And basically, we're going to create a row of these big pines, which will cast a large shadow on our pond, which helps our herbaceous plants grow, protecting them from the western sun. And again, when the buffer is fully grown, you won't be able to see the pond at all. So even though technically we've done a lot of plantings and we didn't have any trees in place, and again, we elect to put them here as shown. We're taking down about 35 trees. They're all beech and etc. Again, we more than meet that criteria with this treescape here, and the extent of herbaceous plants are here. I showed all this to the Conservation Commission. They've been there already. I showed them the massive lists of plants that we're proposing for DEC, and this is kind of like icing on the cake. We're gonna place them where we're not disturbing any existing tree. There's still trees still remaining, but they're small caliper. They're all like 3 and 2 inch caliper with a couple larger trees in between. We're going to place these among these smaller trees and fit them so we don't hurt anything that currently is in place. Can I ask any questions? Answer any questions?
So you've gotten 20 permits. Did I hear correct?
That's correct. Yes.
You've gotten 20 permits to fix the dam, which I'm sure the owner wasn't really interested, signing up for when they bought the property. It sounds like you've been through some ordeal. If I could ask, how long did that take?
Well, it got to the point where I got a Zoom meeting together with every agency that was answering to the DEC, and I basically put it to them and saying, I have an approval from the governor who says that they're selling us the land just to restore the dam. And I told everybody on the Zoom meeting, speak now or forever hold your peace, but I want your permits right away.
Nice.
And so basically I just checked them all off, and using that technique, I got to every agency. They all responded right away. And I just cranked them all off in about a 3-month period. Worked out pretty good.
Okay.
So that was it. Everything from historic to preservation to conservation to. I never heard of these agencies, to be honest with you. We got them all.
Mr. Scott, what's the estimated cost of this project?
It's going to be about close to about $350,000-$400,000.
Whoa.
All right. So in reference to the board, I think it's pretty clear that really are no planning comments here unless anybody could think of some.
None.
I don't see any.
So I think that will be our comment or our memo to the board.
Thank you very much.
Anything, Jim or John, you think we missed?
No.
Nothing from me.
All right, Mr. Scott, good luck.
Oh, thank you very much.
Hopefully you get your 21st permit.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Take care.
Have a good night.
Okay, next on the agenda is Ellington Subdivision. This is a discussion of subdivision. Address is 1075 East Main Street, beautiful Shrub Oak.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, it's Joel Greenberg. I'm the architect for the project. This is, as you said, in beautiful downtown Shrub Oak. It's about 1.66 acres of land. On the front of the property facing East Main Street is a beautiful restored 2-family house, which was restored by my client. And there's a cottage next door to that, right behind it. However, back in 1981, a variance was granted on this property to, it's in an R110 zone, but the requirement is 20,000 square feet per lot. But a variance was granted back in June 25th of 1981, which you should have in your packet, which indicated that the rear lots could be 14,043, and that's what we've shown here now. And the other lot is 14,482. So if you, let's just get on to this. Okay, first of all, just the location-wise, it's at the corner of East Main Street and Frost Road, right off East Main Street. If you pass by there, certainly the house will be very outstanding because it's an outstanding house. And then if you look at the site plan, here's East Main Street. This is the circular driveway in front of the house. This is the house that was restored. And this is the cottage that's in the process of being restored. Back behind that, along Frost, accessing from Frost Road, is lots 2 and lots 3. We have applied to the Westchester County Department of Health. Their indication is they won't set up any inspections for deep test holes and percolation test holes until the snow is gone. So keep your fingers crossed for tomorrow and Wednesday for 60-degree temperature, so we can get a start on that. As far as the original surveyor, unfortunately got ill, so we were a little behind on getting the topo and the tree plan. Most of the trees are in this area back toward lot number 3. There are still a few trees on lot number 2. But for your next meeting in 2 weeks, the survey has indicated, or the new survey has indicated, that he will have both the tree plan and the topography for your next meeting. I will say, if you again pass by the property, it's virtually dead level from front to back. So I'm pretty sure we're not going to have more than a couple of topo lines on it. The houses will be supplied by town water, and as you can see from the drawing here now, there'll be 2 septic systems. Driveways will be off of Frost Road on both cases, and again, we meet all the setbacks for both the 2 new lots, and we meet all the setbacks for the existing house and cottage. Basically, it's pretty straightforward, and I'll answer any questions.
Any questions from the board?
Joel, what was the decision that you referenced in the past that said they could put houses on a certain 14,000 square foot lot?
A little over 14,000, yes.
And they didn't say anything about the use of the main house and cottage remaining. They just talked about lot size.
Well, what they agreed is that what they said was that the 2 lots that they approved, the 14,000 and change for the lots 2 and 3, and it indicates also the stipulation was that the front lot cannot be further subdivided. So in other words, the way we show it is the max that you can do with the property. The front lot, which is obviously pretty large, and the 2 rear lots are the 14,000 and change per lot.
I don't think you or this board is bound by that decision.
Well, doesn't a zoning variance go with the land?
I'm saying it does go with the land, but as a subdivision, I don't think the planning board is bound by a variance or 2 variance, setback variance, lot size variance, excuse me, in terms of laying out a subdivision. So if this board decides anything else relative to that, I think that will stand, and it may need to go back to the zoning board or may not need to go back to the zoning board.
Well, oddly enough, this is in the Shrub Oak Hamlet, and we recently had another application, I'm sure everybody remembers, where the applicant came in with a 3-family house that did not conform to the zoning, as this is a pre-existing non-conforming use with the house and cottage already, and they wanted to subdivide a lot off of the 3-family house, but keeping the 3-family house and creating an additional lot. And we had some discussion about that. I think, we're in a similar situation. We already have a non-conforming use, albeit a pre-existing non-conforming use.
Jonathan, just let me clarify that. The house, the 2-family house, we did go before the zoning board to get the 2-family house, number 1. Number 2, the house and the cottage, again, this is an R110 zone, which is 20,000 square feet per lot. The lot with the house, the 2-family house and the cottage is 72,000, which
right.
which almost actually is 3 times the size, the minimum size of the zone, so that we have the front lot more than conforms. Even if let's say you have 3 families, you have over 60,000 square feet.
I disagree with you, Joel. It may have the land to satisfy the minimum lot size for each individual residential unit, but it is a non-conforming use in a single-family zone. It may be legal. I'm not saying it's not legal.
It's
telling
legal
you
because we went to the zoning board and to make sure that it was approved.
Right, but it does not conform to the zoning, is what I'm speaking to.
Well, I think no. Let me backtrack a little bit, because there are certain criteria that are required to convert a one-family house into a two-family house. It had to be built before a certain year, which I think was 1930, and so that we did conform to all that, but it did have to get approval from the zoning board as long as we met the criteria, which we did.
It's a special use permit. Am I correct, Mr. Tegeta?
To convert it to a multifamily?
Or anything. It could be a restaurant, right, Joel?
Yeah.
You're speaking to that provision in the code where it pre-exists the zoning, which went into effect in 1932. It's on a main thoroughfare coming into one of the hamlet areas. And John, I'll let you jump in and correct me anywhere. But, you can go before the zoning board and request a special use permit for, a number of uses because it meets those criteria. However, I'll stand by my comment that it is a non-conforming use in the zone, albeit a legal use per the zoning board's decision. And I'm assuming their decision was to grant a two-family home.
You're absolutely correct. Yes.
And the cottage is another discussion altogether, which I'm not going to get involved in. I don't know if the zoning board's decision spoke to that or did not, or if it was not part of it, but I think it's somewhat similar to what we had around the corner. And I'm just letting you know that ahead of time that we had an application before us where it was a three-family house and they were looking to create a three-family house in a single-family zone served by sewer. And they were looking to create an additional lot, and that application did not move forward. I don't know where we're at with it, but I know it hasn't been before us for a number of months now.
So, just so I'm clear, Joel, you're saying that the two-family in the old renovated house has a zoning board permit for that?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
2 units or 3 on that lot?
2. To convert the existing house that was built probably in the early 1900s from a one-family to a two-family.
Right.
We went to the zoning board, and as you said, went through the process. It met all the criteria for the conversion, and the zoning board approved it unanimously.
Do you know when that happened?
I will get you the paperwork on that.
Okay, great.
And what about the cottage?
That's pre-existing. That's been there also for quite a few years, and it's all legal. In fact, we got a permit to renovate it to bring it up to today's standards as far as the interiors are concerned.
Mm-hmm.
So it has a legal permit. We got a permit to convert the main house from a one-family to a two-family. I can get you all the permits and the COs and the zoning variances, and all we like to do is, again, it's if you go to the take a look at the property and go back on Frost Road, you'll see that there's a fairly level area there. And again, for the next meeting, we'll have the tree plan and the topography, and I think it'll fit very nicely into that particular neighborhood. What we can also do at the next time is we can get the surveyor to show all the additional houses around and the sizes of those lots, and you'll see that I think it'll be an asset to the community. And of course, we have the town water, and we've made an application to the Westchester County Health Department for the septic systems.
All right. Any other questions from the board before we see more information next time?
They did a beautiful job on that house, by the way.
Yes. In fact, the present owner who was proposing the subdivision is also the one that he bought the properties several years ago and did that work on that. And I think it's certainly an asset to East Main Street. It's kept immaculate. And I think that obviously the 2 additional lots that we're proposing, will obviously be manicured also just as well as the front.
Really, really nice job.
Not only did they take that house and restore it and do a beautiful job, but they bought a house next to the restaurant Bangkok.
That's right.
Tremendous.
Just down the street from the restaurant, just on the curve there. My client also purchased that house, which was in pretty poor shape. and there was a garage behind there. So both buildings were completely renovated. And again, as you're making that curve, you see the church on the left, this building on the right, and behind it is a cemetery.
Right, I was going to say the quiet neighbors next.
Very quiet neighborhood.
Well, that house has a colorful history.
Really?
There was a time when the town board was proposing some regulation of the Shrub Oak area, and that would have included certain regulations on what you can do with your properties in terms of trying to achieve a unified visual impact. And the owner of that house, in protest to those proposals, painted stripes, multicolored stripes all around that building.
Wow.
And that was visible for a while. And then they painted it over after the proposal died. So it does have a history.
It does.
Well, let me tell you.
The good thing is when we dug to fix up the foundation for the garage, thank God we didn't find what I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so we'll get you all the paperwork on that, and we'll be on for the next meeting with the tree plan and the topography. And we thank you very much. And I apologize for 2 weeks ago, but it is what it is. And
no problem.
Thank you, and thank you for your comments about office homes, John Kickard. I won't forget that.
Yeah, so right, there you go. So you were listening at least.
Oh, I heard everything, but you couldn't hear me for some reason. I don't know why.
Right.
But anyway, it's all fixed. A new computer. Right. My old computer was 15 years old, and I guess it was tired.
There you go. Good to see you.
Anyway, so we'll see you in 2 weeks. Have a
all
good.
Right, thank you very much.
And also for those of you, happy St. Patrick's Day.
All right.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Take care, guys.
Okay, Robin is mentioning that we do have a deadline of 11 o'clock. It's a 4-hour meeting limit. So we'll go on to the next, which is Yorktown Energy Storage. This is Tier 2 battery storage system. This is acceptance of decommissioning planned and bond. Locations 3901 Gomer Court, Jefferson Valley. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Okay, you're on.
So this is part of our original application that we had submitted back in September. The decommissioning estimate and narrative haven't changed at all. It's just at this point, making sure the board is okay with the amount that we proposed and the logic behind that number.
Okay. Any comments from the board or questions?
I don't know how quite to evaluate this.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Like a technical question that staff can help us with.
What was the number? What was put forward? What are we thinking about?
They put a price. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sure. So what we did is we have the present value at $24,901.22, and then we do propose, a future value for after 20 years at 2.5% inflation. That the total bond would then be $40,803.55.
All right. So, John, any thoughts?
I mean, supposing you say, the life of this equipment is a certain number of years, but we're not going to just decommission and throw it all out. We'll maintain it. We'll replace it. We want to keep the project going longer. You could do that too, couldn't you?
Yeah, and with me, I do have Mike Conway, who can speak to the life of the system a little bit more than I can. But at a certain point, the batteries do have a usable life. And Mike, if you want to jump in, feel free.
Yeah, the expected life of the system itself is 25 years. Within that definition of the system, different subcomponents like the batteries themselves, they have, various different life frames. So a battery itself may only last 15 years, and then will be substituted out for another battery throughout the course of the system. But that's not what the decommissioning bond is meant to capture. The decommissioning bond is meant to capture sort of at the end of what we call system removal bond. At the end of the project, when it's time to clean up the property, what is the cost of trucking all the equipment away, taking up the various vendors on the salvage value or the recycling components of the purchase price of the battery, which is how these deals work. When you will be purchase a battery from a vendor, it comes with their recycling program for end of life for the battery. So that mostly what makes up the 40,000 ish is people coming on site, breaking up the concrete pads, taking that off site, and things like that.
So you've got these present day costs, and then you're trying to project what they're going to be 25 years from now, and ask us to accept that as the amount of the bond. Is that what we're talking about here? Is this a bond number?
Yes, for the most part.
Okay.
So, do you have agreements with other municipalities that have, you have bond agreements with someone else that we could reference a similar project?
We have them on most of our solar projects. We can certainly get you something from our past solar projects. This will be the first project in which we're putting in a bond in place with a town for an energy storage only project. We have other projects where we're putting a bond in place with a landlord, essentially. So if they say, what if you go out of business, give me a bond in case you go out of business, so I have some funds to remove the project. I think it's probably most appropriate that we get you an example from a solar project. We'll have to do a little bit of trimming that number down, and that those are usually 25, 30 acre projects, and this is 10,000, 12,000 square feet. But we may be able to do that on a per square foot type of basis.
I'm just, I'm at a complete loss here because this is the first rodeo for me with any of this, and it's materials and systems that I don't have a grasp on,
Maybe we can ask the town engineer. If Dan, you're still listening? Just to how you go about evaluating bonds in general.
Let me tell you something. If you went into today and tried to remove what they plan to put in, it's not $20,000. Not today. You got to. I don't know what the price would be, but certainly 20,000. You can't even buy a car for 20,000 today.
They're saying it's 25. Bill, they're saying it's $25,000 in current costs.
I would disagree with that. I would say it has to be multiples of that. You see what, especially if you bring in the unions, forget about it.
Well, I certainly, you have a lot of experience in this area, Bill, and I would defer to what you're saying.
Yeah, I really have no clue.
Not a $20,000 bill to remove what they conceive today. I mean, the town engineer do it. He's probably got more. Got the means book. It goes by square foot.
You guys want to explain a little bit about your, some of the rates that you've come up here with? For instance, your fence removal rate. I'm a little interested in how you're calculating the breakup of the concrete pads, that kind of thing. I mean, I see some of your labor. Typically, your labor rate here for anybody other than an operator is going to be about $68 an hour, right? Is that correct?
Right. Yeah. So we pull the labor and operator rates from the Westchester County data, and then we do the full comp for that number. And then for the equipment and material removal rates, so that's based on past projects that we've estimated those numbers from, that we have decommissioning estimates for on our our typical solar projects, which are, as Mike said, much larger than this. And then most of the cost from there, aside from the equipment and labor, is pretty much based on. So the logic behind it is, the breaking up of the concrete pads. That's based on the weight of the concrete, and then putting it in a truck and then hauling it to a CCDD facility. And then we do calculate the nearest one to get that number, and then however many truckloads that takes. The biggest assumption that we do have in here, as Mike was alluding to, is that the batteries themselves they'll be removed by the vendor. So these systems have contracts in place for the vendor to take care of all of that as part of their scope. So that cost, where I think a bulk of the cost would be, is already taken care of by the end of system contracts that we have in place.
Mm-hmm.
And then in an effort to make this as conservative as possible, we do assume that if something goes wrong, that we'll have to dispose of the batteries. So there is a disposal fee per battery accounted for in this. And we actually didn't include salvage value because that would decrease from the cost. And we're trying to make the cost as high as possible should the town have to decommission this for some reason.
All right, so why don't I think we talked about letting Dan Ciarcia or Lynn Starr take a look at this and come up with an answer if this is acceptable. Because listen, these things are going to come fast and furious now. Seems like they're going up all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Richard, who usually sets a bond for a project? Is it the engineer? Is it the applicant themselves?
The planning board sets the bond amount.
I think what's interesting about this, though, it's new, right? So, Bill, to your point earlier, if you had to demo a house, there's certain costs associated. If there's asbestos, there's certain costs, so it could be. That's why I think it would be appropriate. I think I suggested earlier to have the acting town engineer take a look at it.
I agree.
A little bit more expertise and get us an answer. Because what we do here, we're going to carry forward as other applications come to us. And, I think every other application on this second page is solar or battery. It's just, I think we're going to see more and more of this.
We can go to a book called Means Good Estimating.
Yep.
And that's the Bible.
Yep. So we'll let Dan take a look at that for us.
I just have one other point. If your estimated useful life is 25 years, I think you need to carry out your increases not for 20, but for 25 on your paperwork. So that's already going to bring it above, what you stated. I think you're right. Town engineer should look at this.
Yeah.
Good.
And advise us.
Yeah.
All right. Good. All right. So we'll look forward to hearing from the town engineer. If you want to work with Dan or Lynn Starr, with John, just keep everybody in the loop.
Yeah, we'll send it over, and Mel will communicate with you to make sure you're in the loop on it. Okay.
Okay. Perfect.
Thanks, Mel.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Have a good evening. Okay, next on the agenda, we have the Little Red Schoolhouse Daycare. This is a zoning board referral. Locations 2300 Compound Road.
Welcome back.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Okay, you're on.
Yes. How are you? With me tonight is Melanie Sindakler. She's the owner of the Little Red House of Westchester. It's preschool. The planning board a couple of years back the zoning board a couple of years back, and the planning board commented on was referred on a special use permit for the applicant in the Kear Street building. And in that same time period, I was representing the Montessori school at the United Methodist Church across from the police station. And they had a preschool program there, the Montessori school did, which they were looking to expand. And they had, at the time, 30 students, which they had a history of having a program, and it was even greater extent than the 30 students at some point. And that was in place when that was a permitted main use. There was a permitted main use under the residential zone, the property zone R120. So what they have gone under now, and they're no longer occupying the space. So Melanie's looking to expand her program over to that space there. So can I share my screen, Robin? Okay. So this is the site. Really quickly, I'll take you through it. It's the main entrance. There's parking on both sides of this lot. You can see all the way around. There's about 69 parking spaces. The area of proposed use is this wing of the building, which again has a history of having classrooms in a school. To take you in a little closer, this is a aerial view, as you can see the site. This is the setup inside. The main access point is going to be on the right side here. The intent is to use these 4 classrooms. And what Melanie is proposing to increase the number from 48 to, and I'm sorry, I skipped the part where they had 30 and the ZBA at the time allowed them an additional 18, which would put them at 48. What Melanie would like to do is expand that and go up to 58 students and occupy these 4 classrooms here. This is a diagram that shows all the safety aspects, the emergency accesses, assembly points, so on and so forth, which I will describe a little bit in more detail later on. And then there's a secondary exit point, which would be the main door, as well as another exit, if necessary, out the rear side of the building. This is a diagram of the outside of the building and the exit points, as well as the assembly points, where the fire trucks would enter and have access to. And as you can see here, it points out that there's a Knox box at the front door in case they need to get into the building. Here again is a diagram which shows the layout and the number of students that are going to be in each of the classrooms. You have 10 toddlers in this room, 16 pre-K here, 16 pre-K here, and 16 school age and part day pre-K in this area here. So this building is sitting vacant and you know, this area is not used for anything. As I said, the Montessori program is out of there now. So at the time when these programs are going to be in place, there's no other use going on there other than maybe some administerial operations for the church. Just a little more detail on the park. This is the ZBA decision, which was granted the previous time for the Montessori school, where they allowed up to 18 more students over the 30 students that were already occupying the school. And they acknowledged the fact that the use of the building prior was, although not permitted under the current code, it was grandfathered use because it was in place before the zoning code was changed to make this type of operation a special permit use in the residential zone.
Can you go back to that, Joe, for a minute?
Yes.
So it says this is for up to 18 students in the daycare facility, right?
Right. It's poorly worded, but if you look back at all the documentation and what was asked for, I think it meant to say up to 18. It should have said up to 18 more students, because they, you know, as I said, they had already had a program in there for 30 students already, which they were operating.
And how many rooms were they operating in? Do you know?
Melanie, do you know what that number was?
I'm pretty sure that they were operating out of 5 different rooms. We're actually only going to be operating out of 4.
So at the time, John, I don't know if you recall this, but they had a site across the street and up the road a little bit. And they were transferring students from that facility to this facility, and that's why they increased the number by 18. So just to, Melanie put together a little summary here. We'll just go through real quick and hit the high points. Time of operation, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday, closed on holidays. 4 classrooms, 58 students, 8 staff. The children's ages are from 18 months through 9 years old. Melanie wants you to know that she's a local business, 100% woman-owned, and that she's a Yorktown resident. And with many local child cares closed, need is very present for summer, fall of 2021. She talks about their emergency evacuation routes and their procedures. Quickly, the children will be alerted of the emergency verbally and be lined up by one teacher who will ask and take a head count. Teacher 2 will grab the emergency bag, attendants, and blue emergency contact cards, and they will all egress at the primary egress to the area where they're going to be meeting up. They're going to have fire drills to practice that. Walk the children out the side door to the rear playground area. There's a fenced playground area behind the building. In the event that they need to be evacuated from the site, they're going to ask the police department for assistance and probably move them across the street over to the police department. The building is equipped with a centrally monitored fire alarm. And there are fire extinguishers throughout the building, and that's noted on that diagram which I showed you before. Let's talk about the parking. Here it says 70, but it's actually 69 parking spaces. Drop off will be entering through the side door. Door will be locked at all times. The parents will be provided a code, and it's estimated 15 cars between 7 a.m., 13 cars between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m., and 12 cars between 9 and 10. Pickup, same, the reverse operation, 10 cars between 3 and 4, 15 cars between 4 and 5, and 15 cars between 5 and 6. There's plenty of toilet facilities and ADA compliant bathrooms available. Again, there'll be 4 classrooms, and there's a fenced outdoor playground area. There'll be no transportation provided for the students. And you want to read this, Melanie? So it's in your words.
Sure. So I just wanted to put in closing to, everybody for their consideration that I appreciate your time and review of our application. As both a resident of Yorktown as well as a mother, I can tell you that Yorktown businesses have been hit hard by COVID, especially childcares. Sadly, many were not able to return from the pandemic, and the need for childcare as parents return to the workforce this year will greatly exceed what is readily available for our town. We would like to continue growing our business in Yorktown that has already been in existence here for 13 years. Please help us grow and help our community by considering our application. Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
this is in addition to the Little Red Schoolhouse and the space across the street that we looked at a couple of years ago, right, Melanie?
Yes, so our Kear Street classroom will remain open. It's very much fully enrolled for fall. So, we really need the opportunity to expand.
Right.
Our phones here have been very busy because a lot of local childcares haven't really, been able to sustain staying open through a pandemic. My staff and I have really gone through a lot of COVID regulation research and understandings to be able to serve Yorktown, and we want to continue to do that. We just need more space to do it in.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Just in summary here, you have a public assembly, which is already there. You're not asking to expand the building at all. The use was already there. You're on a state road. You're going to be getting permits, I'm sure, from the building department. I know the New York State governs the inside, the child care. So there's going to be permits and approvals there. So on the planning end, outside of being, already was used for this, John, do you think what would our memo be to the ZBA? What would we be concerned about?
Well, it's the difference in the number of kids that you would be concerned about. This is, right. I'm assuming this is a new application. It's not a renewal. So it's an addition.
Renewal. It's billed as a renewal, I believe.
Yeah, but it seems, a new operator with, it's not a Montessori school, so.
Right, it's a different application, different applicant.
Yeah.
The other special use permit hasn't expired yet. I think it expires in July. So I guess you could look at it. You could look at it either way.
So you have an outdoor play area, right?
Right in the rear here.
And you have 35 square feet per kid, right?
Yes.
And you have the proper number of toilets for the number of kids, which I think I calculated around 4.
Yes, we have enough.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So, in that case, given the, I would say, given the fact that this operated as such, and that they have the proper square footage and so forth, I don't know that there's anything defined that is largely deficient in any way. I don't see anything.
Okay, any comments from the board?
Just a quick question, John. Based upon those criteria that you're talking about, is there a higher number that could be allocated or could be identified that all of those things could support beyond what they're asking for right now?
A higher number meaning more square footage?
No, number of students.
Number of students? Well, it's 35 square feet per kid. So the more you go up, the more square footage that you would need. So that's how that's working. So
what I'm getting at, is this maxing that out? Is this the maximum number that space can support?
No, the four classrooms that they have is about 400 to 500 square feet more than the number of kids that they will have. In my calculation, I just did a quick calculation on it. Okay. So, and then it looks as though there's 1 or 2 other classrooms that are not used right now.
Right. There's other spaces there. It looks like it's not being used in the floor plan. So they could probably expand. So this is not maxed out, especially because it's a place of public assembly.
Yeah, it's not maxed out, but the 35 is also a minimum. Realize that as well.
Right. Yeah, I'm comfortable with the number they're proposing now, and hopefully Melanie's coming back next year to take the the 2 other classroom spaces and expand the program.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're, we don't want to max out every, inch and fit every, 35 is the minimum, as John said. So, we feel comfortable with this number for now. But like you said, if all goes well, fingers crossed, we're a small business. So right now this number feels doable for us.
Great.
All right, so will we send a letter to the ZBA? It appears that all the planning issues have been resolved?
Yeah,
or
I
being
can send
addressed?
We have.
Yeah, I can send that.
Okay.
I'm just thinking, by contrast to, another daycare school program on the same road in a different location, this location is far superior with a much greater line of sight and better ingress and egress, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's already in existence. So we're not expanding the building. We're not expanding the impervious surface. I mean, you could go on and on speaking to the merits of this particular use in this location, in this building, et cetera. So I think the letter that we send, if the rest of the board has the same opinion, would be a letter of support for the application.
Yes.
I agree.
And you've applied to the state for your license for this?
Yeah, so all of our paperwork has been submitted to the state. We're just waiting on our special use permit. Ed's been out to do his fire inspection. Department of Health came out and approved the site. So yeah, pretty much all the other boxes have been checked.
Good.
Great.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
All right, all the best.
Good night.
Hey, good night.
Bye, Joe.
Good night, Joe.
Bye, Melanie.
Bye.
All right, so we'll move on before Robin gets angry. Sorry, Robin. Next is Taco Bell, Mohegan Lake. This is a discussion of amended site plan. Location is 3571 Mohegan Avenue.
Hello. Good
Hey,
evening,
Paul.
everybody.
Hey,
Hope
Paul.
everyone's well. Robin, if you could just let me share my screen, please. For the record, Paul Dumont with JMC, here tonight on behalf of Keystone Mohegan Lake LLC. This is a continued discussion of the Taco Bell application that has been before you. Just to remind everybody, the site is located at the intersection of Route 6 and Mohegan Avenue in Mohegan Lake. At the last meeting, we had discussed the project's layout with your board, and we had also discussed a potential for a landscaping design in the front of the property, which could help establish a prominent corner on the site and help soften the views of the drive-through lane in the front of the property. So since we were last before you, we have prepared a landscaping design for those areas that we had discussed. What we're proposing is a combination of low-growing shrubs right behind the existing retaining wall that's there. We have some little lime hydrangeas, inkberry hollies, and some coral bells that we're proposing along the front line. We're further proposing a 3-foot high white picket fence right immediately behind the first layer of shrubs. And then we're proposing some fountain grasses behind the fence. So all in all, what we're trying to achieve is a layered combination of the landscaping and the fencing, all low-growing items, which will help soften the view of the drive-through lane while still maintaining the building's visibility. So the blue lines that you see on the drawing are some sections that we've cut through the site. We've cut 3 sections through the site, which help illustrate the landscaping. Section A is along the building's principal facade. And as you see here, we've illustrated the Route 6 traveled way leading up to the existing retaining wall. The landscaping that we're proposing, this is what we're showing is really just for illustrative purposes. Then we've also showed a sight line in that dash gray to kind of simulate the view So as you can see, what we've tried to achieve here is a softening of that drive-through lane, obviously understanding that it can't be completely screened, but it could certainly be softened a bit and those potential impacts mitigated. So happy to answer any questions.
What are you proposing in terms of the landscaping? So let's talk about the picket fence that you have, the 3-foot high white picket fence. Is there a detail on that? What's it look like?
Yeah, so just give me 1 second. I could pull up another PDF. So this is a picture that this is similar to what we would be proposing. It's just a simple, low, as I said, 3-foot high white picket fence that'll kind of layer with the landscaping,
Okay.
just to soften that view shed, basically.
Got it. And what's the landscaping that, if you go back to the sections, you're showing us some landscaping in both the front and behind it. The landscaping behind it, in other words, on the building side, seems as though that also breaks that sight line that you've drawn there. So are we assuming that the landscaping behind the fence is also as important to achieve the screening / buffering that you're proposing?
Yeah, I mean, the species behind the fence, right adjacent to the drive-through lane, are the fountain grasses. So it was just an added layer that our landscape architect picked just to add, to break up the visual a little bit.
And they are 3 feet high?
They'll be, not sure exactly what they'll be the time of planting.
Okay. So, I mean, I think what you should, my suggestion is that you select something that is like a hedge, that on this set of plans, it is required to be maintained at, say, 3 feet or 3.5 feet, and that it is also something that will retain its foliage throughout the year. That's my suggestion.
A boxwood or something.
Yeah, like a boxwood. I mean, boxwood comes to mind.
Just to be clear, so in place of these shrubs, just a simple hedge or something like that, maintained at the 3-foot height, like you were saying.
Yeah. But needs to be a continuous hedge. So while we're seeing the cars move around, we're only seeing the tops of them, and your eye will be on the architecture rather than, the rest of the stuff. That's what I was.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Paul. I think it would help if you brought the landscape architect to the next meeting, so that we talk directly to them. I went to the site and drove it. It is going to be interesting with more traffic on that existing site. And I keep going back to the Popeyes that was most recently put in with the other uses in there. This is going to be interesting. I'm concerned about a few things. I'll be honest with you. But why don't you bring the landscape architect with you next time? And I think if the members of the board get the opportunity just to go drive through the existing site, give you a different feel of it, especially its location in comparison to everything else around it.
Okay. So just to be clear, the board would like us to pursue the hedge alternative in place of the fencing and the shrubs, or a combination of both?
I mean, my opinion is I think you should do a combination. I think there needs to be, some real thought put into how to make that work. And I know we talked about rotating the building back and forth, and it seems like this is the way, you think it should be going. But I got to tell you, when you drive the site, you know, when you go out to the Popeyes, big open area, this is a lot more intimate in the width of the roadways and the existing uses out there. I think it would be a good practice for each board member to go out and just take a drive real quick. But that being said, I think I would bring the landscape architect to the next meeting.
How did you come up with the picket fence idea, Paul?
We just thought it might be a nice element to add, you know, to break up the areas of landscaping. And, you know, it's a hard feature as compared to the plant material, you know, so right. It's a hard feature that'll aid in the softening of the drive-through lane, basically.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You have the stone wall there. You're going to have a low hedge. I think, frankly, a picket fence, this is just me speaking, is a little, I think it's going to look out of place, frankly. It's more, that to me is more of a, kind of a quaint residential type of fence. I think it's going to look out of place in this particular location, where we have right across the street, the brand new Audi building that's kind of glitzy and glossy, attractive, but, and then you're going to have a brand new building with the Taco Bell restaurant. I'm trying to picture it in my mind. I just don't know if it's necessary. I'd be fine with just the stone wall and the hedge.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with you. I have to agree with you. That picket fence just don't look right.
Yeah, I think you hit on it. My suggestion was going to be to make sure you discuss with your architect using the picket fence along with the architecture of the building, whether or not that fits in together, and even the color too.
Yeah.
So I think you're hitting on the emotional response with the visual response that I did as well. So.
Okay.
That's why I think it's important for the landscape architect to be here, because that's what they do. Right?
I think if you just had shrubs along there or some kind of greenery all year round, it would just be nice and soft. A picket fence is just too hard.
Yeah, boxwood hedge or something. It's. I don't know how they. Once you're plowing and everything, I don't know how hardy they are if you're plowing and salting, or if they're going to suffer browning or whatever. But I'm sure the landscape architect and possibly even yourself, Paul, would have a better idea than I would. But that type of thing, I think, would be visually sufficient to break up and obscure the view of most of the car. If I go there with the Suburban, maybe you see a little more than if I go with my wife's sedan. But you're up above the road. You're going to be somewhat, obscured anyway. But I'm glad that you get to see the building beyond it with the signage. But I'll get over to the site this week and
take the Suburban when you go, Joe.
There you go.
Because this isn't going to be a push the snow. This is going to be a remove the snow site.
Yeah. Okay.
This is tight in there.
Okay.
Take a ride. All right, Paul.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate everyone's feedback. We'll work on a revised plan and we'll get back to you.
Great.
Thank you for your help.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night. Okay, number 13 is a large-scale solar power generation system at the Shrub Oak Plaza. This is a discussion of the special permit. Locations 1426 East Main Street in Shrub Oak. Okay, you're on.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I will try to make this quick because I know it is getting late and you have some more items to get through after us. So thank you for having us again. Just to refresh everyone's memories, we are proposing a community solar project that is a rooftop and parking lot canopy project combined at the shopping plaza in Shrub Oak. Let me see if I can share my screen here. So when we were in front of the board last, you had asked for some more information about the visual impacts, and you had asked to see renderings of the canopy structures. So that's what we are providing tonight. So just a refresher, this is the latest site plan that we have put together. One note, as compared to the site plan you've seen previously, this front canopy here by the road that's labeled 4 is a little bit shorter. That was at a request of the property owner. We shortened it on this end as he didn't want to block the front of the building. So he has tenants there. I believe the end here is a bagel shop. He wanted to avoid blocking their signage. So we did shorten that per his request. So it does look a little bit shorter than the last one you've seen. So this is the site plan, and I will show you, this is an elevation of what those canopy structures will look like. So you can see on the shorter end, so if you were to pull in with a car, you would pull in this way. On the shorter end, they're about 14 feet. On the high end, they're about 16 feet off the ground. So that is what they'll look like on the side. And then we've also put together some renderings for you to get a sense of what the site might look like once these are installed. So this is sort of the bird's eye view. We also have a view from the road. And I did want to point out that we do have the options here. So we do plan to remove some trees along the roadway here and behind some of the other canopies to avoid shading. So you can see here, for example, we've shown removal of the trees. However, we do plan to do some planting there. So you can see from farther down the road, all these trees will be in place. You won't be able to see the canopies at all, really. You can sort of make it out here in the corner. And from directly in front of the canopies, we do plan to do some planting. We do not have a full landscaping plan at this point. If that is something the board would like to see, we would be happy to submit that. But I did want to point out that we do plan to include some planting between the road and those canopy structures. The planting will need to be limited in height, again, to avoid shading. But we're open to feedback and are happy to sort of discuss any preferences that you might have. And then I also did want to provide, we have done a full tree inventory. There are 23 trees on site that will be impacted by this installation and will need to be removed. So again, we will consider these values in our landscaping and mitigation plans if the board requests that. But as I mentioned, we have not contracted with a landscaper at this point, so we do not have a full plan for that. And then just to provide a little more information, here are some of the additional benefits of parking lot canopies. We do plan to install EV chargers at this site. Those will be for public use for anyone shopping in the shopping plaza or stopping there for lunch or something. They will have the ability to use those EV chargers. So I believe that was the information that was requested. I'm happy to answer any other questions or provide more if needed.
Any comments from the board?
You know, I just want to be a cynical. We're talking about Taco Bell and worrying about parking, you know, visual. This is absolutely, to me, visual pollution. I can't see how this could be in that area. I just don't see it.
It really does fly in the opposite direction of what the area is. And you know, when you talk about, you know, blocking the JV Bagels 2 bagel place, you know, the canopy is one thing, but if the owner was concerned about the canopy, these trees which are beautiful, are now going to block most of the shopping center. It just the architecture of the area and this industrial commercial use or look is very different than I think what, you know, I think even part of this area was deemed to be almost a historical district at one point. I think the town was looking to put that in place. So, yeah, I agree with Bill. It's very different than what I think the intent of the area was meant to be.
Well, I would like to thank you, Julia, for you know, the elevations and what you prepared for us. This does give us, you know, certainly a much better presentation than, initially brought in. I cannot say I disagree with the other board members in terms of this particular location. This type of application in this location, although I am anxious to see us, make use of these solar installations in appropriate areas in town. But certainly softening it with the trees and the shrubbery and everything like that makes it more attractive. But this is a main drag in a somewhat quaint hamlet that we have in town with some historic structures, as Rich points out, as the chairman points out, and even as we've seen earlier this evening on the agenda, we have houses and buildings that are 100 years old, and this looks a little space agey in this particular location in town. Hopefully, if this application doesn't move forward on this site, you guys won't disappear forever. I think you did a nice job with the presentation, and certainly what we're seeing tonight is head and shoulders above the initial sketches that we saw in terms of us being able to comprehend what's going to go on there. So thank you for going through the preparation of what you got here tonight.
Yeah, this clearly shows what we were looking to see,
Right.
and you really don't know what it's going to look like until you get this kind of visual. And listen, the stuff on the roof seemed very appropriate, or if this was behind the building where it's more hidden, but this is right out in front on the road.
If I may ask the board members, because we are proposing a few canopy structures here, is the primary objection this longer canopy that is on sort of that main thoroughfare? For example, these in the back, are these more acceptable to you, or are these also too close to a roadway?
Well, the one in the front jumps out at me. The ones in the back don't really bother me as much, but I don't know what's going to go on back there in the future. We are, just so you're aware, the town board is considering, hamlet overlays for the 5 different hamlet areas in the town, and Shrub Oak is probably coming up next. I would imagine Shrub Oak and Mohegan Lake will be the next 2 overlay zones that are outlined, and it may well include the road in the back in terms of development of somewhat of a village concept overlay, perhaps. So even though at the present time, I think the 3 in the back wouldn't really bother me, if they were installed, putting them in the context of what might come into the town in the next several months, we may have the same kind of feeling. And, again, the rooftop things don't bother me at all. I think it's great. They're not really going to be seen, and you have that elevation in the front of the building that's going to obscure most of what's going on the roof, as it does now with the mechanicals. But I think, it's a tough location for these roofs, not the roof mounted systems, but these canopy systems, because it's going to be a very visible corner. I know something's going to be done on those other, streets as well.
If I could echo what John is talking about, the one that bothers me the most is the one that's right on East Main Street, the front one in the long array. But I see isn't there some other possibilities towards the rear of the property to maintain, to put up something like that? If you made those more on the interior side towards the rear where they're not right on the front of the road, you may be able to get what you're looking for in a different place. There's some cars in the back there that could be a better site for that front array.
or the elimination of the front array even, Aaron, and leaving the two that are generally perpendicular to each other, and maybe taking that third one on the side road and putting it over the cars in the back.
Yeah, well, I think if you bring it into the interior or rear of the property, it would be a much more palatable project for me. Because it wouldn't be right out in the front there on the road.
You know, and looking at the area of those, it looks like you possibly get, again, I haven't been up on the roof, but it looks like you still got some area on the roof. And that area in the back where it shows cars, I think that's employee parking. I think there's some dumpsters back there. I know the green area to the right, next near where the old undercarry used to be, I think there was a daycare or something there, and that might be fenced in now too. So, I mean, it looks like you know, that one up front, though, it just screams right at you as you look at the visuals.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know, you even got the school across the street, or the church, you know, something like this in the school parking lot where you have that sea of asphalt, you know, anyway.
Yeah, understood. I mean, you know, we of course want this project to move forward, as does the property owner. It is, you know, of course, we as a developer are just constantly working towards these renewable energy goals. And, you know, in our mindset, it's, if not here, then where, right? You know, we need to be doing these types of solar projects wherever possible. And from our perspective, this is a great site because it does provide an amenity to people who are going to the shopping center. By providing them covered parking, by adding the EV chargers to the site. So we do see a lot of benefits to it, but I do recognize the concerns about the visuals. And if we can rearrange this in a way that, you know, the board would find more acceptable, I'm happy to consider that with our engineers and the property owner and bring it back. You know, don't want to just move forward scrapping the canopies completely. I would like to find an arrangement that we can all agree with.
It looks like you've got potential to do that. So let's see what you can come up with.
Yeah, and you know, in the area again, if you look at like the Google Earth, or there's areas out there that are seas of asphalt. You know, you got the church across the street,
right next door.
Seton, Acme. You got the Lakeland School District. You know, there's areas that are set back that are not so on top of that corridor. And I'm sure you've driven the corridor. You know, it's again, as you pull off the Conic and you drive through, and you know, this is kind of a cut through for Route 6, but it's this is very different than what's out there now.
You've got this whole triangle. You're only showing a piece of your property here. According to the survey, that the road on the right and the new road on the top there, they meet at a point.
Yeah.
Yeah, right back here.
You've got some room to take that whole front array and put it in the back.
Hide it.
Take it right off the street.
There you go.
Gonna have to take down some trees.
Right.
I do know the one thing that will probably possibly hamper that back there is wetlands. You know, there is a stream that goes through there. You know, the back is all wet.
Yeah, I remember this site when it was first developed, but I think they're further away from that at this point.
It's crept.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, you've certainly given us something to think about.
Okay.
And thanks for being patient with the agenda tonight. I know it's kind of late for you too.
No worries. No worries.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
We'll see you soon.
Good night.
Okay. Next, we have a town board referral. This is for the Granite Knoll Sports Complex. Location is Stony Street.
Not just next, it's last.
There you go.
No, Robin added a few.
Oh, okay.
So who do we got on for this?
Just you guys.
See if we can kill 27 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
11 o'clock. Robin wants to run it right till 11.
I think this is actually I think this is for the parkland alienation that they have to do. It's not really for the project itself.
Oh.
Which I believe that the project itself you'll be getting at some point.
Right.
I believe that's the case.
I think so. That's what the referral is. I don't have any issues with this.
No,
this is the perfect place for it.
Exactly, in my opinion as well. But this is a procedure, right, Ed? That you guys
Correct.
have to go to the state.
Right. So, you know, for the above canopies, it's really not a problem per se because there's no parkland other than the being alienated the posts, and they're looking to change those laws anyway to allow this.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, you know, before we, you know, tick the clock out because they're eager to run, and we'll start moving it just in case there are distractions in New York State government that prevent the laws from being changed.
I think this is a great location.
Good.
This I would be in favor of.
I'm in favor of that.
We've had a few that really, you know, the farm, IBM. There's a few that really work. When you look at it, it makes perfect sense. And there's some that just, you know, scream the other way. So I would say, no planning board objections, we're in favor?
I'm in favor of it.
We not only no objections, we should encourage this.
I agree. This is the right place to put it.
Wait.
All right, so Robin added 3 more items.
We'll put in a word of encouragement.
I had another 2 that we needed to put on there too, so we're 5 more.
There you go.
Can I ask a question? Because I see Dan still on. Dan, are you going to be joining us, I guess, for the meetings?
Yeah, no, I plan on, I mean, certainly the Zoom thing makes it easy, you know, to tune in and see what's going on and jump in as may be necessary. So I'll have to, you know, I'm committed to a certain number of hours per month, but at the same time, like an evening like tonight, although I didn't realize planning board meetings would go on this long again. But I do want to wrap my arms around what's going on, and you know, this is a good opportunity to listen in and see what's before the board these days.
I think it would be very helpful.
You guys aren't on board. You guys aren't going to feel awkward all of a sudden having engineering support.
Yeah, right.
Looking forward to working with Dan again. I think it's
absolutely.
Aaron, when you were the supervisor, was Dan the town engineer?
Yes, he was.
See that? There you go. That must have been a good duo. That must have been a good time.
You know, we worked well together.
Yeah, we got some stuff done.
I'm telling you, it was, I think the town worked well then. We have Bill Gregory as the building inspector. You had Dan as the engineer. Right?
Yeah, I mean, Bill Gregory's a legend in the game.
A lot of cooperation.
And we had Ed Delaney at the health department.
And Ed Delaney, yeah. Oh my goodness.
Is he still working for Bibbo?
I think he might be. I haven't seen his name on anything lately, but he might still be over there. I'm not sure.
Wow.
Another good guy.
Well, we did get some homework, Dan, on a.
Thanks to everybody for the kind words. Look forward to working with you all again.
We got another 23 minutes to kill.
So I can tell you some more stories from the 80s. The meeting's always.
That's all right. Yeah, really.
You got any stories about Aaron? All right, guys. So
You're entertaining a motion to close?
Is there a motion?
Yes.
Or
It's an unanimous motion.
is there a second?
Second.
All's in favor.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Good night, everybody.
Have a good night.
See you
Be
soon.
safe.
Good night, everyone.